Good. Okay, welcome to the planning board meeting, May 8th, 2025. We have one public hearing tonight. That'll be at 6:30. Judging by the size of the crowd that's actually present in the room at this point, I don't think we're going to have a large public comment. But as we go along, I guess people have the agenda. They'll be here when their application is heard. So we're going to get started with some general business. First is to approve the April 10th, 2025 draft minutes. I was not here, so I cannot vote. So one of you, whenever you're ready, if you want to introduce a resolution to approve the minutes, that would be good. You have to use your turn mic on.
I'd like to make a motion. Is it on?
No, I don't think so. There we go.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the planning board meeting minutes of April 10th, 2025.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next planning board meeting is June 12th, 2025. Next item on the general business agenda is the steep slope code amendment. I guess, Andy, you want to come up and talk about that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the planning board. Tonight, I was hoping to bring you a draft of the steep slope code, but I got jammed up and I wasn't able to prepare that. We did do some research and have found several versions of a steep slope code that has been worked on over the years by the department. So I need to go through those and smooth them out and bring it up to what we think are the best management practices today for steep slopes. And I am hoping to have that for your next meeting.
Okay. Next week, so we could vote
Uh,
on
we
the
will-
next meeting?
We will get you a draft of it, and I think it'll be for discussion. You might want to amend it, but if the amendments are minor, then you could adopt it or recommend adoption to the Board of Trustees on that, and then I'll take it to the village attorney and get that process going for a code amendment.
Okay.
So that actually, so you'll disseminate it to us
Yes.
before the meeting.
Yes.
So I would like to request that we receive drawings and submissions when you receive them. Because as of whatever time I emailed you today, I had no drawings or submissions. All I had were staff reports for the submission. I don't feel I can come prepared to a meeting unless I have. I'm not,
Okay.
and then if I need it in hard copy, if I can't deal with only the electronic, I'll come down and get a hard copy. But
Okay.
I would like to have those at least within whatever the timeline that we had in our,
We will get them
bylaws.
to you as early as possible. Sometimes we don't get them,
Right,
And,
right.
But we will get them to you early as possible, with the understanding that if we send them to you right away, we might not have had a chance to comment on them. We
That's
might
totally
be sending
fine.
them
Yeah.
right back again.
But they're not gonna change between then and if they do, then send the revision. Because I can't be prepared for a meeting without
Understood.
seeing the drawings.
Understood. That's fair.
Um, And I
fair.
think in our bylaws, we have it that they're supposed to be submitted by X amount of days before the meeting, so
Right. Okay.
that would be great.
Okay,
That's all I have.
all right.
Awesome,
Okay,
thank
thank
you.
Okay, I see that Suffolk County Villages Officials Association is having municipal training next week. Anybody wants to sign up for that? Zoning and planning board members and all village officials as well. And we have a notice in our packet of the sessions that are going to be there. I see there's a session on dealing with difficult people online, so,
Never. We don't have that problem.
and in public. Yeah.
I actually had a question. Are we reimbursed for this now, or is that no longer a thing?
We're at the end of the budget, so I can't take it out of my budget, but I can request of the village to see if we can get you reimbursed. The clerk did forward it around for all members that are interested, so if I can get a list of interested members, I'll bring that over to see if we can get that reimbursed for you.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was a policy change.
There was a policy change because I don't have in my budget until the next budget cycle any money to use on that.
Okay,
And the next budget cycle starts in July, correct?
End of June, I think.
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So we'll jump to the first work session in advance of the planning board hearing, which needs to start at exactly at 6:30. So the first work session is 1600 Main Street. This is the delicatessen, which we've had several times. So we're going to be reviewing a draft resolution and decision on that.
Did we get the draft?
Yeah, it's probably in the packet.
I meant, did you email the draft resolution? Okay.
Probably. Probably today.
In an email, though. is what I mean.
I didn't see it. It's in the packet, but yeah, I didn't see it either. But they could put it on.
Oh, sorry, got it.
Yeah, looks good to me.
Sorry, I'm slow.
Oh, wait.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the resolution for the conditional use and site plan approval for 1600 Main Street?
I will so motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up is 12 Jefferson Landing Circle. This was the failing railroad tie retaining wall replacement with a block wall. Any update on that? I think I've driven by the site and I see construction's almost complete. Looks like maybe final paving and some landscaping or grass or just. They haven't asked for final inspection?
Not requested a final inspection yet, so we have not been there to take a look at that, but when we do go there, I believe there's a condition in, if I'm looking at the right resolution, there's a condition in the resolution that the planning staff will review the amount of clearing and ground grade disturbance due to the work related to replace the retaining wall and provide recommendations for stabilization, potential proposed plantings that may be required. The recommended work will be required prior to the completion of the issuance of a CO. So when we get the request for final inspection, we'll go and take a look at that.
Right, and they had gone to the zoning board and got approved.
Yes, they have.
Come back.
Yes.
So
Thank
that
you.
was number 4. That was
That was number 4.
number 4. Okay. Mine's all
Okay, so we'll take a fast read through this. I think in the second paragraph, I think that's Joseph Celentano, the engineer. That might be a typo. It says Elentano.
I have one question. Is it only on commercial properties that, or, large things that we ask that the planting survive 3 years? That wording? If you guys ask for planting,
I don't know if that's limited to either.
okay,
District, but I'm not sure if that's limited to those.
right? Like,
I think I've seen it for residential property when it's a large planting,
okay.
but I think I've seen it.
Do we need that here, or are we good?
I don't think it can hurt to have it. Because I don't know what they're putting in, so. And
I know we
there's a
haven't
vacant
seen
area with no
any-
topsoil yet, I think on either side of the wall,
Yeah.
or maybe on one side of the wall between the
Down to
neighbors.
the driveway,
right?
I think. Down
So
to the
again,
street.
I didn't see,
Yeah,
I
we
don't
don't have a-
have plans for this application. I don't know what's proposed.
I thought we
See,
had
we've
gotten these
seen-
before,
I've seen plans.
from the
I'm
last
sure.
meeting, or before the last meeting, 2 meetings ago? 2 meetings ago, before they went to
I
the zoning
wasn't
board, I think.
there for that
Ah.
meeting
We definitely saw a drawing.
with planting.
I think there was.
Yeah, if you have
some
it.
Front. I think there was some more planting shown in front of the house, but I don't recall anything on the wall.
Okay.
That's it?
Okay.
No, there's no planting. There's
So they're
no,
planting at the moment. And there, I think they're proposing grass.
It's a very narrow strip.
yeah, so I guess we don't really need,
I mean,
like, they didn't take down trees, they didn't.
No.
They didn't do any removal of vegetation, so they don't
No.
really need to add
I-
vegetation.
I think if you could, if that wall was along you could see it from the front street. I guess you could see it from the street, but really it's looking at the neighbor's property. I don't think the neighbor has a problem, I
Yeah,
don't think the neighbor
so-
needs the wall screened with any, or said anything. He was here when we were talking.
Okay, then I'm fine. That's all.
Okay. I'm still reading. In the fourth paragraph on the second page, the last word, is that moot, not mute?
Oh, good catch.
Good catch.
I just read it as
It's the spell
moot,
check,
but
it's good.
didn't really. I know, good catch. I read it as,
Yeah.
It's mute.
yeah,
The brain automatically converts
just,
it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, looks good to me. With those two minor changes, gonna get a motion to approve with the minor changes?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I,
Okay, we have, I guess, 5 minutes before the, 8 minutes before start the hearing. Three 340 East Broadway. Did we get, on that one, did we get any, comments? Oh, you guys had the April meeting, so I guess we didn't get any, or was there?
It was open for post last meeting for comments.
Were you
Oh.
here for that comment
We
about?
closed the hearing.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
So what happened was.
See, we gotta turn you on.
Oh, is it,
Is it a light lit? I can't tell.
there you go. All right, well, good evening. So what happened was that the resolution originally, there's a condition in the village code that requires for an affordable subdivision being approved, that they have to get the Suffolk County Department of Health Services sign off, like on the approved stamp map. But what we ended up finding out was that these lots were actually already subdivided on the county level. It just wasn't subdivided on the village level.
Oh, really?
So how this happened, I'm not, yeah, like, so it must have
Wow.
filed with the county first or something in the past that
Oh.
happened of that nature. So the applicants reached out to us saying that they talked to the county, that they didn't require that approval, and we reached out to the county to confirm that whether or not it was true, and they said because the lots are already existing, there's nothing for them to really sign off on. So that's what the resolution was revised to indicate. So you'll notice there's a, it is, it's very, yeah.
I don't think we've heard that one before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
As long as you're sure.
Hmm?
As long as you've confirmed that.
Yeah, we reached out because they said there's no changes to the tax lots as they're shown on the county level already. They have them subdivided already in the exact configuration that the village approved. So it must have been. They said there was a filing in the past, and it's in really corresponds to the year that ended up almost subdividing them by default, the way it was done through the county level in the past. So, yeah, and it was new to me as well. So this was, yeah.
Okay, so
And there were no public comments post-closing?
No,
Wasn't
right.
Hearing
there,
closing?
when was that public comment about
That was so
traffic? That somebody was objecting because of traffic?
that was at the meeting. I think that person was at the meeting, weren't they? At the hearing?
I don't believe there was anybody speaking to that application at the hearing, but I
No.
thought something came in
I thought somebody,
after. I was
in
supposed to-
email,
There was-
somebody had objected.
There was a traffic comment, but it wasn't a significant comment.
No, it wasn't. It was
Yeah.
just the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, following the post.
Yeah. So this resolution was passed?
It was.
on
This
April
was
10th. This is a minor amendment.
exact. Yeah, and you'll see.
Oh,
the-
just to reflect the, what you just said. the
Yeah,
division.
so I guess to clarify, Suffolk County approval, Department of Health Services approval is still required for any changes to septic, any new septic systems, and any their typical requirements, just not the sign off on the subdivision map.
So since it's already pre-existing, do we need to even vote on this? I mean, it's just,
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah, I believe so because it wasn't, we didn't have it filed as subdivided on the village level.
So we're just bringing our own records up to date.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah, into compliance,
So we
yeah.
should vote on the resolution again. I
On-
mean,
Yes, yeah, the
Yes.
new amendments there,
Okay,
so
the
there's what-
amended resolution.
Yeah,
All right. I have one picky comment.
okay.
Whereas is spelled a couple different ways on going down the column.
Oh,
I don't-
wow.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if spell check picks up capital letters.
I will
does
fix
it?
that. It should be within
Yeah,
it,
it
yes,
should be within
yeah.
it.
I don't know how that happened.
The computer has a mind.
No,
of
'cause
its
the only
own.
reason I saw the first one and I'm like, is that the right way to spell it?
Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that.
No.
First one's with the New York accent and everything after that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, I see. The amendment is really
Do we need to
on just that paragraph on the second page.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
do we need to update the approved by resolution date?
Yes, so I did put that as May
Yeah.
8th for,
At the end,
One.
for the
Okay.
signature.
yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Do we need to receive, leave it open for comments again?
I believe so.
It's still open for?
No, we don't have to still leave it open. I have it on the record that we did leave it open for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's not
Okay.
that-
Wait, so do
that's
we,
a line on the,
We just have to vote on this to bring it up to Port Jefferson's records.
no, I meant, do we have to close a hearing if we left it open?
we did not.
We closed
No,
the
we
hearing,
closed the hearing.
okay,
Yeah, so you wouldn't open it for
okay,
a minor amendment like this, you wouldn't reopen it.
Okay.
right?
And we voted on we approved the resolution.
okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Motion to approve the May 8th, 2025 resolution for this
I-
project?
Will, motion we approve as amended.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
I second. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, we are close to the hearing, so we'll wait until 6:30 and start the public hearing. 6:28. Oh, no, we gotta go up. Okay, it's 6:30, so this is the public hearing for 1037 Main Street, change of use and conditional use permit. Cindy, if you want to read the rest of the information into the record.
1037 Main Street, change of use and conditional use permit. Application number PB 0721-25. 1037 Main Street, corner of Franklin Street. Suffolk County Tax Map is District 206, Section 17, Block 1, Lot 21. Zoning RO Residential Office District. Property owner is Andrew Thomas. Description: the applicant proposes to convert an existing single-family residence, formerly known as the Fox and Owl Inn Bed and Breakfast, into a two-family residence within the RO Residential Office District. No site improvements are proposed.
Okay, does staff want to give a summary of this, or?
Just sent Dan downstairs who've done the summary.
Oh, why don't we wait till he comes back? You can use the podium, that's fine. Oh,
That work? Okay. All right.
okay.
So
Yeah,
it's-
just a summary of the application and the history of it, brief history of it.
Yeah, sure. So this is the 1037 Main Street application. It is what was in the past a single family residence located within the it's the RO zoning district. Most recently, it was used as a bed and breakfast. In with 2021 had an approval, which has since expired. It was a 3-year approval, I believe. 3-year approval. The application before the board tonight, and as part of the public hearing, is to convert this single-family residence into a two-family home. It was last reviewed at the April 10th planning board meeting. And at the time, we went over the conditional use. It is a conditional use. We went over the standards for it. The application was found to primarily be in compliance with most of those conditional use standards. The one slight update we have to this is that during the last discussion, we mentioned an issue about the parking location. And one of the conditional use standards for a two-family home is that there cannot be parking you have to have a minimum of 4 parking stalls, but they can't be located in the front yard. This obviously being a corner lot and having a paper road on a third side has several front yards where the parking is currently proposed. So we reached out to our village attorney about this, and essentially the interpretation we got, and we have. Sorry. So we reached out to the attorney regarding this. The interpretation we got is that in terms of the parking stalls, given the 4 stalls that are currently in the driveway, because the driveway is pre-existing and is already approved, they technically wouldn't need a variance for those because they're pre-existing almost where they're located. There's 2 grass paved parking spaces that were more approved as part of that bed and breakfast because they're newer approval. In order to keep those or retain them for the two-family residence as a usable parking, then you would potentially require a variance. Still don't have it formally in writing at the moment, but I know he's offered to write that interpretation as well. But that's our understanding of it at the moment.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Dan?
So just to clarify, we're not asking for the 2 parking stalls on the grass, paver grass things,
Well, it's
because they don't really need them, and they would have to go for a variance to get them.
yes.
Okay.
But I know that would be the applicant's
Decision.
decision. Right now, it's
Right.
currently included on the part of the plan. But that would be, the applicant's decision.
Okay.
Two, two.
Just
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Dan?
No.
Okay. All right. At this point, we'll bring up the applicant. And you'll need to get, well, you need to get sworn in.
We had communicated about, let me get sworn in, yes. Why I was waiting. Andrew Thomas, 1037 Main Street. Should I provide context or just immediately jump in where we were on that?
Why don't you just jump into the 2
Okay.
spaces on the grass?
So this is, we had reached out after the last meeting. The conversation had been hopefully, and it appears that the confirmation was, that interpretation was confirmed, which I've just heard. That those 4 spaces that are pre-existing are sufficient for the application. And I had offered to remove the others from the drawing. It's funny because it's almost like their presence on the drawing is as much as their presence in reality. It's not pavement, it's not a curb cut, right? It's not really a construction of any sort. It's essentially, plastic rings which stabilize the dirt, which are buried within the grass. We didn't want to remove our lawn when we put them in the first place. So at a certain point, I'm not sure how that would be interpreted. I think for the sake of this application, I could pull them off of the drawing, which was something I offered, and we could submit, or just rely upon that interpretation in terms of not being asked to remove those that non-construction from the yard. We could debate we could discuss whether it makes sense to do a variance for that or whether that's not deemed necessary. But I think as a part of this application, they could kind of go away. I mean, it's basically grass there already. I don't know how to parse that for you, but
Do you have any intention to use it?
not as a primary. I mean, we've used it over the years because we needed to have 4 separate slots, and we had permission for the bed and breakfast. Trying to not use it when we didn't have to, when we had a bunch of private separate guests arriving, because it lets the grass grow better, right? When you're not using it constantly. Having overflow parking is always nice. So if you have friends over on a Friday or something, that there's somewhere to park that's not on the street. But I don't want to parse this too finely for the sake of this application. I'm happy to exclude them. I just don't know whether their presence would then cause the building department and the delivery of whatever to require us to go for a variance separately than this conversation. I'm not sure how that all gets shaken, but yeah, we're fine with taking those out of this conversation.
would you be opposed to going for a variance?
I prefer not to, obviously. It's more time and expense, and certainly if this application were to depend on it, I would prefer not to do that. If we were to, again, I mean, it's lawn right now, but if someone were to say you must put back lawn without the plastic in there or go for a variance, I'm not sure if you'd be making that determination or if the building department would be making that determination separate from the question of the 2-family use. But we could discuss, we could decide personally whether the variance to keep it or to take out the plastic makes sense on our point, but I don't know that it has a bearing on this, if that makes sense.
I think if they come off the application, the plastic should come out. I mean, it shouldn't be used for parking. If it's off the application, it's deemed to be landscaped area, not parking area. I don't think you can have it both ways.
Got it. Would it be possible to remove it from the application and then decide whether we wish to go to a variance to keep it and get everything closed out so as to not hold up the process? Because we would have probably applied in the last calendar cycle for the for the ZBA if we'd known. I don't know. It's horses and carts, right? So I mean, we did reach out and ask, and,
Well,
and didn't really find out an answer until now. So
Yeah, and I think the answer that you were looking for as of now was whether the 4 spots would be sufficient for the 2-family.
Right.
So now you have the answer. And the question is, because it will, if there is the plastic still there, there's the potential for people to park.
Yeah.
So you would have to actively prevent that somehow with railroad ties or
Right, actually declare it to be non-parking.
like
Yeah.
somehow make it so that it is not possible to park.
Yeah.
So
well,
however,
we'll have to, I guess, make up our mind on that score.
right.
I mean, it's a little tricky because and this is more the argument that would be made for the ZBA and not maybe for you guys, but the way I read the code, that there's a prohibition, not just in the conditional use, but in other in other aspects of RO for having front yard parking. But I read that as not wanting to see parking on Main Street. And it wasn't written that way, but I think that was the intent of the code, because not just our house, pretty much every house for a long block in either direction, dozens of properties are all either through lots or double corner lots where they all have driveways and parking and everything that's technically in a front yard, but they're not on Main Street. They're on, Hawkins or First Ave back behind. And so I think the intent of the code was to keep Main Street from becoming a parking lot. But that's an argument perhaps for the zoning board in terms of making a technical exception.
I think
Yeah.
we
for
have,
the intent of the law.
I think we have no parking in front yards in many districts in the village.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think,
Okay.
yeah, I agree.
Right. I don't think it's just Main Street.
All right. Well, I don't envision that there would be a trouble getting the variance from the zoning board, given we've got 3 front yards. It's just an extra expense and a hoop, and I would hope for it to not be a delay in this process if there's a way to parse that. I don't know.
Well, can we make a decision on this application without addressing, or since there's no problem with the parking for the other unit, for the 2-family house, can we make a ruling at this time and not take a look at those 2 spaces that are on grass technically? Okay, can we as a board make a ruling on this application for the 2-family home without having to address what's on the site plan with the 2 parking spaces that are on grass? Because right now, the 4 spaces on asphalt is fine for this application. It meets the requirement.
We will check with the attorney, but I believe you can approve the conditional use and hold off approving the site plan until such time as they resolve any issues.
Could we possibly just label those 2 spaces on the grass as potential parking if needed, parking spaces if needed?
And then condition your approval on
on the
the
plan?
zoning board variance? I don't know if you can condition approval on the ZBA variance.
No, condition the approval of those 2 potential parking spaces in the future.
Because they would need a variance. The only way they get those 2 parking spaces that are in the gray shaded area is if they get a variance.
But-
So we can't say we approve it with the variance because then that's impacting the zoning board, their decision, right? Like we can't,
How important is that to you?
We put it in ourselves. It took a lot of work. We redid it at one point to make it smoother and better, and it's useful as overflow. So it's and we worked hard to make it beautiful, and it's grass. So it's more work and a lost thing, to get rid of it. But
Sure.
like I said, if I'd known that we would need to do that variance, I would have gotten that ball rolling after the work session.
but you wouldn't have known that until now.
No, I understand. I'm trying to keep as few horses and carts as possible to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah,
This
I
is
think-
just the first step.
I think we raised our concerns about it at the last meeting too.
Well, and I reached out and asked whether I should remove it from the drawings, what the ruling was,
Right.
and I'm just now getting, it's okay. In
I-
terms of keeping it, that's a conversation we have to make a decision. But I don't wanna rule out trying to keep it at this point, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, if you just showed them as potential future parking spaces if needed.
But you would
On
still
the
need a
plan, right?
variance,
Do you,
right?
do you need, or that you get the variance then if you need it?
You're talking almost like land
No.
banking,
But-
Ray, or?
Yeah,
I mean, it's sort of.
kind of like, yeah.
I
don't know,
guess
but-
if I were to remove the hatch and show it as lawn, which it is, that would be truthful. I mean, there's nothing that stops
Right.
somebody from pulling a car onto grass
Well,
in
but-
anybody's yard
yeah.
if they want to.
But we may, as part of our approval, require some landscaping there, plantings to prevent the use. I mean, we could do that. With knowing that your intention is to use it when it shouldn't be used.
So you're saying you could just show it as grass and take them off?
Right, and he's making the point that you might want to be put, well, at what stage would that conversation happen? Because you're talking
Now.
about site plan.
It would happen now.
All right,
Yeah.
so,
Right.
go ahead. I mean,
Yeah.
is that
Well, I don't-
something you're interested in asking for? With
Yes.
the express intent of keeping it from becoming parking?
Yes.
So then I would need to make a call as to whether we want to go to the zoning board or not, which I'm not prepared to do unilaterally right now. So
Yeah.
I'm only co-owner of this home.
That's.
Mm-hmm.
So are we saying, just to clarify, we're saying either go to the zoning board and get the spaces approved, or put plantings or some sort of something, railing, post and rail? Is that our position?
Well,
I agree with
that's-
that position. I'm just
that's-
wondering if I'm
that's-
interpreting it.
That's my position.
Okay,
We're a board.
right. I meant, is that what you meant? Sorry, I
Yes,
didn't
that's what I
word it
mean.
correctly. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
See, my feeling is if it's just removed from the site plan, from the drawing, then if it's removed and there's code that says you can't park on grass,
So then you're saying, take it off the drawing and leave it up to being inspected. So if
Yes.
there's a car parked there, the village inspector sees the car parked, comes and issues a ticket? Is that
yeah,
what we're?
well, that's it, yeah, because in the village, it's illegal to park on the grass, right? And if somebody's parked on the grass, they are subjected to a ticket.
But, then we're creating, code enforcement issues and, why would we do that? We're just asking for trouble.
Would you be satisfied if they put some plantings there where a
Yeah.
car could not
Yeah.
be parked?
Yes.
That's what we're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You leave the plastic in, but put plantings in that prevent that area from being parked on. And then that's it. We got, we're comfortable with, I believe we're comfortable with everything else.
So it's one of two options, which is we get a variance to keep them,
Right.
or we do something to demonstrate that they're not going to be used.
Right.
I would think you just put 2 bushes on the property line and you're
Okay.
done.
Can you, in the interests of keeping it moving, approve it contingent on those two things? How do those horses
I
and
don't
carts
think we
work?
can, but he just said, that I don't think we can't make it subject to, we can't. Yeah, we can't make it subject to the ZBA. Yeah, I don't think we can.
So we
make
can
it.
only approve option number 2.
This is a public hearing, you can close the hearing and amendments or changes.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Or
So
we
it
could,
would,
or
the
get,
decision would wait for next month. We would have to make a call and let you know and make whatever amendment to the drawing. Would it
Yeah.
be-
We have to allow time for public comment. I don't think there's anyone here in the audience who's going to comment tonight because they're here for other applications. So we could close the hearing, wait 2 weeks for any public comment, and then we could have a draft resolution available for the next meeting.
And if I were able to make a call tonight that we were happy to abandon it, would you be in a position to approve it this evening?
No, we can't approve it. We need to keep it open for public hearing at least 2 weeks.
What I was
Public comments, I'm sorry.
What I was debating was whether to not to ask for 5 minutes to go reach out and see whether we could make that call now. But if
Oh.
it's not going to happen either way, then that's not germane. I
It
don't
could
think, so
help.
we can let you know.
You
What?
know, I mean, it could help to know now.
Yeah.
It would, it wouldn't,
It's good
you know,
information.
it would
All
help.
right, well, we can ask for public comment and see if there is any, but I'd
Okay.
want to stay for that regardless.
Yeah.
But if there isn't, I would ask for 5 minutes.
I think I got a lot of head shaking in this direction from
Yeah.
the back of the
I don't
room.
But we can
recognize any
still
neighbors,
close,
but
we can
hope-
still close the public
Hopefully
hearing.
that's a reflection that we've run our business well over these years, is that nobody seems aggrieved of what. But, yeah, so if that's all right, I can take 5.
Yeah.
But we can close the public hearing and then make,
I'll still be able
The
to weigh in
decision.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
think
you
we
can come up down there.
because we still
yeah.
need 2 weeks anyway for people to be able to respond.
Yeah,
So
anybody
you have
watching-
2 weeks,
Okay,
you know,
very
so,
good. Then I'll wait till the after work session and come let you know.
Yeah.
okay.
Anybody watching on TV or anyone who saw the notice couldn't make the meeting has 2 weeks to drop off comments at planning or mail them in.
All right, I
Um,
appreciate that. I'm
within
used to
2
the
weeks.
ZBA, which often makes the decision the same night.
We're not as sharp as I guess as the
No,
ZBA.
If there's 2 weeks required, that's actually the good reason, not even to go there. But thank you.
Okay, can I get a
No
motion?
other questions on any other subjects? It's
I
just
don't
this
think
one.
we have any.
All right. Well,
Get a
thank you.
motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And we can go back down then.
Oh, sure.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Next up is 1601, 1607 Main Street, Conifer 2 development. We're going to be talking about the performance bond on that project tonight. Are you on or off? I can't tell.
I am now on.
Okay.
So for this application, we had anticipated the board accepting the performance bond, but we got, with regard to the parkland fee and the PILOP, we had to take another look at that. We were going to bring the resolution all together with the setting the performance bond and the PILOP and the parkland fee, but we pulled the parkland fee off, so it's up to the board if you still want to look at setting the performance bond or wait for the parkland fee and the PILOP and do it all at once.
I think we should wait.
Might as well wait, yeah,
Yeah.
have the whole thing
That's what we
complete.
thought the
Yeah.
board might want to do.
Can I-
But
Yeah.
on the pile-up fee, don't they have enough parking? I thought they had enough parking spaces.
For Conifer 2? I don't believe they did.
Because.
Yeah, they were 13
15
short. That's
okay.
right. Yeah.
Good, well, I'm thinking-
How much was the parking fee, roughly?
28? Kind of. Yeah, we could pull that up. I think it was like 28 or something like that.
8,000.
Right, but there's some discussion on whether or not we want to, whether the board wants to increase the parkland fee. So I need to bring that before the Board of Trustees and have that discussion.
All right, so we'll hold off on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, next is 16, if I'm in the right order, 1604 Main Street. Pre-submission application.
At the last planning board meeting, we had several pre-application meetings discussing new proposed projects. These were preliminary meetings, as pre-application is, to just go over the project a little bit. Staff has prepared a initial staff report. I believe you have that. And just if I could go roughly over it, I know the applicant is here to talk with you about that, but what is being proposed is the assemblage of 3 parcels, approximately 0.3 acres. The applicant is proposing to demolish existing buildings on the site. By the way, if we get the aerial and pictures up on the board.
Yeah, we got the exhibit as well.
The subject property is located at that would be the southwest corner of the intersection of New York State Route 112 and,
Sure.
let's call
Twen-
it Linden
25A
Place,
in the area.
25A/112. Okay, you can see up on the screen now, we have an outline of the project. So the demolition of the existing buildings and the construction of a 35,498 approximately square foot building. That would be a 4-story mixed-use building. There's proposed 1,385 square feet of retail and about 1,080 square feet of office space along Main Street. There are some amenities being proposed: bike storage, 1,100 square foot gym, and the applicant is also proposing an outdoor public plaza on the south side of the intended building. As I indicated before, you could see the location of the project. The roadway to the southern property line is owned by MTA, so that is an MTA lot and access way. I'm just going really quick through this. The motor vehicle access to the building is proposed via a service-only entrance in the rear of the property, and that extends out to Linden Place. You can see that. There's no parking offered on site for the proposed project, and that would be 38 off-street parking stalls. There are 6 on-street parking stalls located along Main Street in front of the building, just as an advisory. With regard to the application, if it was to move forward, it would be a conditional use site plan application. With regard to SECR, it would be a type 1 action because it is proposing more than 15 new residential units, and it is a structure exceeding 35 feet. So the applicant would be required to do the full environmental assessment form, and we would review that. Staff had a few comments, just starting off. This project, as would be normal procedure for the planning board, this type of project, we would recommend that it go to the Architectural Review Committee for comment back to the board. We indicated the total square footage of the property and the parking requirements. I think we were off by maybe 0.3 tenths of a parking stall with our calculations and the applicant. But if you do the math out, we calculated that the parking required for this would be 41 spaces, and the applicant, I believe, was less than that. I don't recall how many spaces that was. Do you remember how many you proposed? 38? Okay, so there was some discrepancy on the required parking. We would get into that as we analyze the plan a little bit more. The last comment is that the fourth floor, as the applicant knows and the board would know, that does require a major public benefit. And there is, I believe the applicant is proposing the plaza as the public benefit, so the planning board would want to discuss that, if that is an appropriate benefit for the fourth floor. So with regard to action items, if the board wanted to move forward after hearing from the applicant, the applicant would file a complete site plan application, conditional use site plan application. We're asking the applicant in that application to provide a narrative. We usually get a narrative on what is proposed from the perspective of the applicant. And again, this application is recommended to be referred to the Architectural Review Committee. So we did a really quick once-over of the project site, saw some issues that I think we already are aware of, and that is the staff report.
Okay.
Had a few comments from what I had. I didn't see the drawings ahead of time.
Okay.
But it's my understanding that it's fully retail on the first floor for Main Street.
Yes.
You're allowed 30% of the square footage can be for accessory service, which would be your entrance,
Mm-hmm.
right? And mailboxes, things like that. The rest on Main Street has to be retail.
And,
And then
yep.
if I'm understanding the comp plan, are we allowing apartments on the first floor that can then hypothetically be converted to retail if it's not on Main Street?
Yes, and that's at the determination of the board.
Right. Okay. So as, I
So-
didn't see the plans.
Right,
so
no, I wanted
just
to
wanna make
address,
sure.
is it okay if I?
Yeah.
address-
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
So, oh, sorry. Hi, I have to introduce myself. Chris Hadjandreas, the corporation that owns the property is 1610-1618 Main Street, PJ LLC. And in regards to the percentage of retail, in the plan, it shows, if you see the first floor layout, the corner, it says amenity space, amenity office, not amenity, leasing office. The envision, that was supposed to be changed. The original envision of this was that was going to be like a restaurant. It's the entrance to the village. And I think when Andy discussed the discrepancy in terms of the parking spots, I believe the number didn't factor in the square footage of that area as, a restaurant, and that's what I think the discrepancy is. With that, being a restaurant, I was told in my initial meetings that the apartments I have 3 one-bedroom apartments that go along, I don't know, what do you call this, railroad or? Yeah, railroad. The way I was instructed, or the way we discussed it, rather, was those would be built, to conform, to be converted to commercial. And what I honestly envisioned was the restaurant taking 1 or 2 of those as square footage for, the restaurant, or whatever this corner would be. I see as a restaurant. It would be facing the public plaza. I think it would be a beautiful entrance to the village of Port Jeff. And then basically everything else is retail except for the entrance for the lobby. And so I think in terms of the percentages, we're not locating anything else facing Main Street except the front door, lobby area, and everything else is retail.
Okay. And then I guess we just have to decide as a board so it reads, accessory services, provided that the space so used is fully concealed and equal in area to no more than 30% of the square footage that is devoted to retail.
Mm-hmm.
So it can only be 30% of your retail space. That's how I'm reading it. So
What-
your accessory use,
Which
your
would be the
leasing
apartments.
office, your
Oh,
entrance,
Yes.
mailboxes,
Yeah.
anything that's not public
Right.
on the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
Facing Main Street.
Facing Main Street. Yep.
Well, this is where we're going to have to get a little maybe. You might have to remove some of the apartments in order to meet this requirement. Because you can only have 30% of the first floor square footage devoted to accessory use.
Okay.
Okay, it's 30% of the retail space, not
I
of
see, of the
overall
total.
space.
So it's 30% of
This and
1,800
this.
square feet,
Right.
or the two
Well,
combined.
So then, if that's the case, again, if these, two of these one-bedroom apartments that we're showing just became, retail, it would
Then you
increase
would
the
have-
percentage, and I would be able to do this other one-bedroom and this other two-bedroom unit. Originally, we had another unit where the bike storage is, and, it was gonna be an odd-shaped unit. I know it's very important for transit-oriented housing to have interior bike storage, and we would only be able to offer it pretty much interior. And so we changed that from, from an apartment to bike storage.
So, I mean, the other thought that I had was move your lobby entrance to this side. That may help your ratios. And what's back here? What
Okay,
is that
so
area?
if you see this is a right-of-way access way, and so garbage. This is
So this
the
is exterior.
the
space.
exterior. Yeah, there's nothing. The building. This is to the sky. This area here. Here, let me show you. Actually, I don't think it's in the picture. No, it's not. Building's kind of built like an L.
Just don't know if you want to have your bike storage right off of your main lobby. That's,
Could we,
where?
could we read that section again?
Sure. So this is one of my 215-19. It's the general commercial C2 district. Now, this is our code. It is not the comp plan.
Right. Okay.
It is not the.
Because the
Oh,
comprehensive
okay.
plan has overlays
Okay.
and it has suggestions for the
Okay.
side roads, not Main Street. Which we all have, we have to interpret what it means put together. So just our code says, blah, 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 permitted uses, right? It says banks, comma, retail stores, and accessory services, provided that space so used is fully concealed and equal in area to no more than 30% of the square footage devoted to retail sales. Now, if you look at the comp plan, remember I asked you to get the picture of the comp plan? It's spelled out in one of the figures that the intent of the comp plan and the intent of this code, which was designed according to the comp plan, is that we have retail on the first floor, full retail first floor, right? But are allowing, because you have to have an entrance, you need mailboxes.
Yeah.
You may have 30% of that space devoted to accessory use, but no more than that.
I think
So-
honestly, I think
And that's of the retail use.
with
So-
what you're saying, I think it's easily attainable with what I drew with just simply, as I mentioned, making this extend into and that was always the plan. We drew them as apartments because, but to increase the size of this retail location, whatever it may be,
So,
to take at least, one or if not two of these apartments, then that would make sense.
are we reading this right? It is no more than 30%. No more than 30%. You can have less than 30%.
Oh,
right?
correct, absolutely. I
Yeah.
misspoke. It's no more.
No more.
Correct.
Than 30%.
So as it is now, I haven't obviously done any
We haven't done the
calculations,
math on that yet.
but
Right.
it looks to be more than 30%
Understood. And I think again,
of the
as a,
retail space.
right.
Or, and restaurant though is a conditional use, but that's,
But
I'm
that,
assuming
but
they
that
may.
only applies to Main Street.
Well, I
Right,
think
no.
we all need to take a good look at the comp plan and really delve into it to really understand.
On the west side, don't mistake that as a road. It was never a road.
Okay,
It's just access to the parking lot in the back.
okay. So then that's, I think something like that is up to our discretion.
Right.
That's why we're people and not, it's not just plugged into a code and a check mark. But I think we all need to just look again at the comp plan, understand what the intentions are. But my position is that not side street, just the access road. As long as we meet the requirements of up no more than 30% of the retail space, and I would assume that they also mean the restaurant as conditional use.
Yeah.
Right? That I'm okay with having an apartment on the first floor on the side.
And if I'm understanding you correctly, if you take the retail I'm showing plus this, which will be some form of retail,
Right.
and
Or restaurant.
yeah, and you take that and whatever that number is,
The corner.
you take 30% of it, then my entrance and lobby, the rest of this area right here cannot be more than 30%, which just looking at it, it looks like conforming to that, but if I
Yeah, I
need
don't-
to,
I didn't
increase
have the
the,
drawings
yeah,
to get.
no, it's fine. If I need to increase it by taking one or two of these apartments, then that's
And
fine.
Did we have the full build out? Did we get a number of how many
For our
apartments we have? Because my understanding is 500 is the hard limit for the C2 district. How many do we already have built out? How many are in the buildings that are already approved? Where are we?
We have that. Did we finish that?
It's
Is there a hard limit?
We have,
That's what I read.
the
Hard limit,
comprehensive
really?
plan envisioned up to 500 units.
Yeah.
Sorry. Around 500 units.
Right.
For uptown. Okay. As far as existing apartments, don't have a number on those that are already existing above what
Well,
this
yeah.
might have or something like
I
that.
meant more like the new buildings, the things
We-
that have been
The
approved,
new ones that have been
including
approved, what did we come
all
up
of
with?
C2.
Right,
Conifer and Conifer 2, and
and Conifer 1 and 2, and I think that came out to close to 120 units, something like that.
Seems
That
low,
seems low.
very low.
Conifer 2 is 80 units, 85 units.
Each?
No, total.
Total, 1 and 2 is like 85 units.
Yeah, and
Okay. And
the Hills is 74, thank you.
And the hill and one north is 35. You're way below the 500.
Okay,
Yeah.
just,
It's not a cutoff at 500. That's just part of
Yes,
just
I got it.
exceptional place.
Right, it was
Yeah.
it was a
okay.
goal.
So
I
we
guess.
have no mechanism then in place. See, I misunderstood then, and I couldn't find it in the code, so I'm assuming,
Section, right?
I don't
Because it
want
might
this,
be in
your
the-
problem is the sewer capacity. That's
Second
right.
page.
well,
2 pages,
okay, good,
all I
because
had.
I guess I'm hoping that we have a cutoff because I
Well,
think
in the
the
comp plan,
intent was
we had written, how many apartments can that C2 area
support.
support?
Yeah.
And it was, I don't even remember 500. I thought it was slightly under.
Anyway,
I haven't
I
looked
just
at it.
feel like there should be a
Lately.
mechanism
I think
to,
we got a long way to go.
great, then I feel great, great.
So,
Plus, we have parking requirements
Mhm.
there too,
fact,
so
if I
But
remember
this
correctly
we have
now,
constraints.
This is coming in with no parking.
if I remember
Yes.
now, the
Right.
quotation from the comp plan was a minimum of 500 units was the critical mass to make a walkable TOD.
Okay,
So the envision would be more than 500 units uptown
okay.
in the
So I
South
need to
Village.
read through it because,
We're pulling it up there. and
It's,
We looked for it. I think it's
oh,
in there.
good, thank you.
right there, at least
At least
500 units. Create a neighborhood, so there's not a
Awesome.
hard number.
Okay, so then my
What
misunderstanding,
paragraph
I
are
guess
you
I
looking
read
at?
it as, we're trying to not
What paragraph?
overbuild.
I'm sorry?
What paragraph are you looking
it's
at?
at the bottom,
At the
Very
bottom?
this
The traffic report indicates,
second sentence.
and then at least 500 units in order to create a neighborhoods in the east and west of Midge.
Yeah, okay.
We are, so
Great.
I wanted to address the parking situation. Originally, we envisioned building this with underground parking, but we do not have the access to do that. And I'm within 200 feet of a municipal lot. I want to do other things to offset parking in terms of when I sat down with Mr. Freeling, the bike rack, the bike storage, the message boards for train schedules in the lobby. You know, this is, if there's ever transit-oriented housing, this is it, because it's a stone's throw from the train station.
It might be a hard road to hoe, to
And
build a brand new building
Right.
with no parking.
And
I
then-
mean, it's just,
one other thing I want to be considered is the buildings that I'd be removing have a total of 14 bedrooms, 11 apartments, and which is roughly half of what I'm proposing, and I'm providing 0 parking right now. So besides what's, you know, what so I know you know, those both buildings would be gone, and it's not like those, you know, those numbers would be carried forward, but again, I would like the board to consider that. Behind me is a municipal lot that is empty, you know, mostly. This, and,
but,
So we would,
Yeah.
staff would do
This is
a
what this-
parking stall demand reduction analysis and provide you the options for that. And there may be a combination of different things that could be done on this site in order to alleviate the parking requirement. But staff would like the opportunity to work that out
Sure.
and present that to the board.
I mean,
Okay.
you do have a certain number of parking credits due to the existing, right?
it's
14
just,
built-
We have, you know,
14
we'll have to
units.
look for legacy credits
Legacy
on the
credits
existing
is the word.
building,
Yeah.
things like that. We'll
And
look into that. There's, as Mr. Hadjidakis has said, there's numerous parking lots in the uptown.
but we,
A walkable community, keep
Yes.
in mind, a TOD, a walkable community is a 5-minute walk. So theoretically, if you park and you walk a minute and a half to your building, which could be the other side of the road for that matter, you are in a TOD. The marketing of a building without parking on site is an issue for the applicant. But as far as a transit-oriented development, parking does not necessarily have to be on site.
I'll take that into
I know
consideration.
this is a running discussion that we've
Yes,
had, yes.
yes.
So I wanted to also address the 4th floor and the public benefit. The 4th floor we're proposing, because of setbacks, you know, has 4, 5, 7 apartments up there, and we wanted to create something with, and again, this is going to be more for the architectural review board, but something that really brings a lot of character to the village. And what my architect came up with in the design was to emulate what you see when you get further north on 112, when you start getting into, I guess we'll call that lower Port Jeff, you know, in terms of this this bump out and what would you call this? Just
Turret.
turret. Thank you.
Feature.
And you know, the turret extends into the setback on the 4th floor, but again, we could, you know, we could do away with that. We just thought it really added a lot of architectural significance. This is what you're going to see when you enter the village, instead of you know, a square hardy-sided building that seems to be going up everywhere. We want it to be you know, really stand out and really create an entrance to the village. So that's where the idea for that is. And again, it does protrude into the setback on the 4th floor in that one corner, and but not the setback along Railroad, because the building is already set back on Railroad to create the public plaza. So in terms of the public benefit, this would be a, you know, maintained, landscaped area with tables and chairs, and again, it would be a very nice entrance to
What are the
village.
dimensions of the plaza?
Where exactly is it?
Should go to the ground floor plan.
yeah, over here. So this is the 2nd and 3rd floor, and then here we go. So it would be this entire shaded area here. I don't, here you go. I don't think I
Oh, I
have,
have it.
It's up on the screen,
oh,
so-
It's fine.
dimensions.
oh,
Yeah. It's the entire length of the building. It's about 15 to 20, 15 to 18 feet wide, depending, because of the ins and outs of the building. And it's the entire northwest, southwest corner of the property.
So the devil's in all the, all the details, and if the project moves forward, we would get more detailed plans. I think at this point, is the concept of the plaza palatable, if you will, to the board?
I,
I was going to say, I love the idea of the plaza. I think that it would really add to that area. I do want to point out, though, that the access road to I'm going the wrong way because
Yeah.
that's how it used to be. It used to be a 30-car parking lot. And I was cleaning out at my house and I came across some site plans where it's actually drawn in as a 30-car parking lot. And then when the flow was reversed and they put in the evergreens, all of a sudden it became a 7-car parking lot. And I wonder if the 30-car parking lot is recoverable.
Where is
Where-
that exactly?
That would be, she's discussing this area here.
Mhm.
This
Oh.
used to be, we'll call this railroad here.
Right.
This used to be a 2-lane, when I bought the buildings, this was a 2-lane
Yeah, yeah,
road, and there was a lot more parking
And
there.
then,
It
we-
looks nicer now, but it wasn't designed for parking.
Plus,
And,
that would involve the MTA.
yeah, I mean, that's,
It existed. It existed, and then they made it prettier, and in making it prettier, they took away the majority of the parking spaces.
Okay. And so this public amenity, is this in lieu of paying a parkland fee? Is that what we're,
No,
so
that,
you'd
no.
still have to pay for that for the fourth?
Yes, the
story.
public amenity, this major public benefit is the trade-off for the fourth floor.
That's what I'm asking. So
Yes.
so
The
this would
code
be in
requires
lieu
a
of.
major public benefit if you go to a fourth floor.
And then-
Have we had any
All
applications?
our
for-
applications that are in pre-submission that you talked
Right,
about last
yeah,
time
right.
and now have all had a fourth floor
But
element.
we haven't had one that's
Mm.
gone through and we've applied to come up with a
No.
acceptable
What
public benefit.
There's no
major
No
public
precedence.
benefit means?
Wait.
Okay.
We have none that has set a precedent for a major public benefit.
Okay.
One of the things that when they redid that road was they put a sidewalk next to the building. And they were trying to get people to walk from the back Linden Street parking lot up to Main Street. And I don't think it was ever accomplished. People weren't walking from the back park. I did because, that's where I put my car. But a foot traffic flow never happened. And I think if there is a pedestrian plaza that has seating and amenities, that maybe that will draw the people from Main Street to the back parking lot and vice versa.
How is the fee, because we just were talking about a different building, and how is the fee, if no public major amenity is provided, how is the fee calculated?
Parkland fee, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a multiplier per unit. 1,500 per unit or something?
Yeah, the Board of Trustees established it. The most recent one was 1,500 per unit.
So the Board of Trustees establishes the parkland fee, and the last parkland fee established was at $1,500 per
Per unit.
per unit on the 4th floor or total
No,
building?
total.
Okay.
So,
Is
not
there anything,
sure.
Yeah.
sorry,
Sorry, no.
is there, I wonder if there's anything in the comprehensive plan that talks about certain improvements to, that southwest side of Upperport that needs to get done or should
Well,
get done?
I don't think there was a specific
No, not
paragraph
that.
about that corner. There are massive.
Or in, I'm just thinking, I mean, do we need to do more sidewalk to Texaco?
Again, nothing specific. There are
No, I
general
just wonder.
recommendations on sidewalks.
I
and
understand
things like
what
that.
you're saying, like, I read it thoroughly around my,
Didn't
you
see
know,
anything.
what relates to my property. There isn't anything specific.
Right.
Currently, there is, they put a brand new sidewalk when they redid, Railroad, going all the way from, the southwest corner all the way to, basically where, you know, the back of Apple Auto's property is. It, the plazas, you know, again, this area would become, you know, even though it's MTA parking or, you know, would really become part of, you know, because now the building's open to it. And I would, you know, absolutely be okay with taking over maintenance of that and, you know, this whole area, you know, all the way back to the parking lot. And, you know, I know the village spends a lot of money in maintaining this area, and I would be, you know, as part of the public benefit, because it's in my interest to keep it nice, you know, take over that as maintenance. And, you know, what's there now is, you know, with the buildings that I have now, basically, if you look at the picture, what would be, I guess, the back 2 units is all dumpsters, and, you know, it's not an attractive area, and this would really clean it up.
Is there any discussion in the comprehensive plan about what public benefit means or what the intent was? Nothing?
No, it's undefined.
It's just like, they just threw a term in.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm gonna interject. So it gives some examples.
There you go, examples are good.
It does. Not a whole lot on it, but it does say, 20, yeah, the comprehensive plan suggests that features such as a park, recreational or cultural facility, large public plaza, right-of-way dedication, or substantial and guaranteed reduction in trip generation may satisfy the criteria.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I think also for the applications that decided not to put in a public amenity, I thought that some of the monies would be dedicated to putting that park in over by
Highland,
Highland.
Hmm.
Yeah.
6 acre park.
But I think we have our homework cut out.
Right.
Where do you anticipate, since there is no parking, which is tough, but where would you anticipate having a loading zone?
It's,
You mean-
it's in its plans. If, in the, you know, I was instructed that the retail has to be, fed, if you will, from, not from Main Street. So
Well,
we have this, access here, which would be, this access is only for, what you referred to it earlier is only,
It's called,
Service
it's called a
Service entrance.
service entrance.
and in the
Oh, I
back
see.
here. So this is service entrance. This is where dumpsters and garbage and deliveries for all, and this would be able to through this back corridor that's in the building would be able to service all the retail.
but people moving in and out,
Yeah,
they could potentially
Yes.
park.
from
A
there and
moving
not
truck.
be right, not be on Main Street. Yeah, there's already, you know, we already have dumpsters there now, and there's trucks that come and large trucks that come and, you know, access the dumpsters that are there now. So, yeah, moving trucks or whatever could get in. There's going to be a loading. If you see over here, I'm pointing to
Yeah.
on the first floor, the loading and maintenance area. That's going to be access, rear access.
So,
That would be right here.
Yeah, well.
so do you know how wide that is? Or is that like enough for 2 lanes?
No, it's
in
not
and
for
out?
2 lanes. That's why it's a service entrance. It's
So it's a
just
one-way
over 10
somewhere-
feet. It's again, you know, we're getting
I don't know how.
large, you know, the trucks that empty dumpsters that.
And a,
they're,
mo-
you
and a
know,
moving truck could
yeah.
pull in off of Linden, come in, and then
Right.
back into the loading area, unload,
Yes,
and then go out but it's only,
One
you
at
know,
a time.
Yeah,
one
Yeah,
lane.
one or- yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I just don't know how you can provide any rear loading for any of this retail up on the south side. It's cut off by the lobby.
the hallway extends, like, basically you're walking right, and then
So you're gonna
you're,
walk.
yeah,
You're gonna walk through the lobby with your, you know, your with restaurant supplies. That doesn't really work.
but, yeah, I mean,
That doesn't work. Should move the lobby entrance.
yeah, and that's a possibility.
If you did that, you could
We could,
continue the access.
yeah, we could move the lobby, all the way to the, north side of the building
You
where
could do
that
that,
B staircase is.
maybe.
And, or, like you mentioned earlier, we can move the lobby around the corner
Right.
to,
To-
coming off the public plaza.
I would think that would be better. It would work better.
And then that would, create more area for,
Deliveries.
retail. Well,
And deliveries.
yeah,
To the retail.
And getting rid of garbage and.
Right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't parade it through the lobby.
Mm-hmm.
What is this area?
That's
What is that?
property I don't own. It's Carianis. You guys reviewed that at the last,
Yeah, that's-
public meeting, and there's a bodega there.
That's
deli.
that-
Oh, that's
the deli.
Yeah,
Got it.
So
And-
his, go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead, you-
No, so, that's, I don't know if that was approved, what he was trying to do, but, they're expanding that deli into,
So his driveway with the dumpsters is right
Yes.
adjacent to this driveway,
Yes.
in the back of the building, yeah.
They were gonna use totes because there was always a problem.
yeah.
for you.
Right now, he has his dumpster blocking my access,
Okay.
and the board
Yep.
required him to remove the dumpster and put totes
Right.
next to his building so that I have access, which I need.
Right.
Not just for this project, but for my current buildings.
Yeah, I mean, I like the public plaza, if in fact it's 15, 18 foot wide. I think that'd be a nice,
Yeah.
I want to say yes, but I also, if we're requiring some, how much will it cost? Kind of, I almost want, it sounds, just to make it even for all applicants, if we're requiring other applicants to put in
Mhm.
$1,500 per unit, to me,
Parkland fee.
Hmm?
You're talking about the
parking
parkland
fee,
fee.
but it's the same, it's one to one, right? We're talking about whatever you have to do in order to get your fourth
Right.
floor.
So
And it's been attached to a money, it's been attached
Right.
to this much money.
if you're looking at,
So,
those
I not
numbers, we're
understanding?
talking about on 30 units, $45,000. I could tell you that this would be pavers, it's not gonna be blacktop.
Right,
The pavers alone
would be.
would cost more than
Okay, so
$45,000,
Because I just feel like we,
you
it,
know?
it shouldn't be very subjective, it
Yeah.
should be more,
If
if
that-
we're
you know,
requiring a certain amount of money from
Right.
some people,
Better off.
then,
I mean, you're
That might-
better off doing an impact fee and making it even. I
Impact
mean,
fees
but-
are not legal in New York State, but
Well,
if,
well,
if the
the-
board
You know
wants
what
to
I'm
make a
saying, though.
monetary equivalent to the fourth floor to a public benefit, that's the board's prerogative to do that. Parkland fee is parkland fee. It's separate from anything. It's a parkland fee. The fourth floor major public benefit is a public plaza. One of the things is providing I forget how it was worded, but parking stall demand reduction could reduce all the trip generation from that property by eliminating, the parking on site. So there are a lot of different ways to address the fourth floor bonus without equating it to a monetary equivalent.
I'm
Parkland
just
fee, I
looking
understand.
for, I'm looking for something that's a little less subjective. I feel like we need to really define what it is.
Would it be better to define it as?
No?
Brookhaven does this. They establish a number and then they designate the specific major public benefits that have to happen, but it's attached to a solid number. I could show you one.
One proposal we have is providing a public walkway that connects the west side to the east side, helps connect the west side to the east side. That would be a major
Right.
public benefit in terms of walkability.
Yeah.
I don't know the monetary equivalent to that and how that relates to the fourth floor, but I want that walkway for a major public benefit from a planning
Right,
perspective.
but maybe it could happen from a combination of applicants.
Well, the applicants on the east side will be providing the other half of the major public benefit of the walkway. So, when the major public benefit, it's loosely defined as plazas and reducing trip generation, and I forget what the other one was, but it's loosely defined. And when we're building a TOD uptown, walkability is very important. Everything I can get that would improve walkability, including
Right.
plazas and walkways and things like that, helps that critical mass become a walkable area. So,
Okay.
Because I just want to throw something out there because
Is it make,
removing the fourth floor entirely and making the building bigger,
Mhm.
because I could go all the way to the property line, but again, I want to build a pretty building. I don't want to build a box. And this is, when you cross the tracks now, I look at my building every day and I'm not happy with what I see.
I wasn't
And,
opposed to.
yeah.
I think it's a great benefit. I just feel like I'm an engineer by
Right.
trade. I feel like we
Is
need.
it fair or balanced?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
I understand.
Like,
But if you look at, I could do a cost analysis on just what the
Right.
public plaza will cost to
Mhm.
build today.
Right.
And
and
it's,
maintain.
and maintain, and I can absolutely do that for the board because it's not just, it's gonna be a nice, paver type patio, and, with, just
Tables,
landscaping
chairs.
alone, you're looking at,
Yeah.
in 25,000, it just, so it adds
Right.
up quick. I mean, this
Right.
is not gonna cost less than $100,000 to, with what things cost. And, for seven
think it's
apartments,
beautiful.
I think it's a
Yeah.
fair trade.
Yeah.
And that's basically all I'm
I
getting
mean-
is 7 apartments out of it.
okay.
But again, we looked at it a couple different ways, and if we made the building bigger and just removed the fourth floor, which would save a fortune in construction costs. The fourth floor is not cheap to build because of the offsets.
Right.
When you, in construction, because you're setting back, those point loads have to be carried all the way down to the basement or to the ground floor. It adds a lot to construction when you're building a fourth floor that's offset. So it may be in our interest just to nix the fourth floor entirely. And believe me, we've had these conversations. But I want to build a pretty building. And when he drew this with the turret, I was like, that's also not cheap to build. Whenever you build anything other than a box, it's not cheap.
And speaking of, this is more of for us. Could we approve this without a variance? Would they need
Because
to
of the
get a
setback,
variance
the
without
fourth floor
having no
setback, this.
Oh, the turret,
The turret not being,
Oh, the turret itself.
What
because
she's,
it's not,
I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Laura.
Laura. What Laura's referring to is this area right here.
Mm-hmm.
If I draw a line,
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, see this area right here? This is technically, the way the code is, on the fourth floor, this has to be set back.
Mhm.
And this small half of the circle is not.
Is that a
So-
unit? Is the top
Yeah,
half of
it's
the
a
circle
two-bedroom unit. But again, lopping that off, it
Yeah, no,
changes the whole,
and
we
I
can't
think,
build that
again,
thing.
I
Yeah.
love the idea, I love everything, but I think procedurally it would need a
Probably.
variance. Unfortunately, I think
I
it's,
would think.
Probably have to
Yeah, it'd
go
need a
for
variance.
yeah.
I mean, as those,
but you
right.
could get the variance,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I
just
know
by
that, I
what
know
you're,
that.
I mean, I can't
It's-
speak
yeah.
for the zoning board, obviously, but
But if there was a way that was an element that wasn't necessarily the fourth floor, or if the architectural review committee saw it as a different way, I don't know, but I think that we should investigate that further, right?
yes.
sure.
So my architect, you guys know him well, Sal Coco, he's been in front of you guys for years. And we went through this, and again, the way we read it with the public benefit, the plaza, we like, check, we got that. Architectural significance, and we're trying to create something that really creates an entrance. And you could build this building a lot cheaper and conform to, you know, everything that is on paper, but it's not gonna be pretty building.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, so staff will write up a report, flesh out this report with the recommendations of the board, some of the discussion, and then we'll provide that to the applicant and the board, and the next step is up to the applicant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate
Okay.
your time.
All right, thanks.
Did you get a copy?
Yes.
Glad you found that business. about-
Okay, before we go on to 1506 to 1512 Main Street, Andrew, you had some feedback from our public hearing earlier today, actually.
So we had a conversation and both agreed that we would want to keep it. We have a lot of sweat equity in that, building that thing. We think we did a very good job with it. It looks nice and it's useful to us. And I understand it's a little bit of gray area, but one thing that did crop up in the conversation was, and I thought was worth pointing out, was that so we've already decided over the course of the interpretation for this particular conditional use that the other parking is what's pertaining to this conditional use. And so this is a separate thing which just has to do with a site plan approval where you're deeming it something that requires a variance to remain. That said, this particular site plan as it exists has come before this board 3 times before, not for a conditional use, which is what caused the conversation to come up in the first place, but in being reviewed for the initial bed and breakfast permit and the 2 other ones afterwards. And in fact, that first one happened before we built the thing, right? So we weren't sent for a variance at the time, and I just thought, and I get it's a little bit of a gray area, because is this thing a structure, right? It's grass, but then are you I understand where you're coming down on that, but it was a little bit of a surprise because we'd been before you before and not had to go for that variance. So I'll put that. But let me know where you're at. Yeah.
Are we still in the position to say, let's close that off with landscaping then?
No, he wants to keep it.
He wants to
You want
keep
to
it.
keep it?
Yeah.
The question is
okay.
whether, despite
Unfortunately-
prior interpretations that we didn't need a variance to have this thing in that location, you're sort of changing your mind this time that I do, basically.
Well,
I
So,
don't know that you would need one. And
well, I don't know. So
We're
Maybe
not
not.
really getting confused.
yeah, it's a little back and
if,
forth.
my understanding is, so things like that, we definitely depend on staff to help us with recommendations. And the fact that it came up this time and not before, we can't be held accountable for missing it
No,
in the
and
past.
I'm not, it's not like you're
So,
beholden to your own precedent, but I was pointing that out
I-
as a counterpoint.
I would like to ask where and why the staff decided this time with this iteration, it might be just new eyes going, wait a minute, this, technically should have been flagged before. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it really matters. I mean, it's a new application. It's a different use.
That's what
and-
I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering.
but
Is if it got flagged because it's a different use
And
now?
I think it
parking in
came
the front
up-
yard is an issue.
Well, I think
No.
it came
With
up
residents.
because one of the conditional uses was about parking in the front yard, and the question was raised, would have been raised even if this had never been a thing and never been built and never proposed because of the other lot. And that was deemed, because it was prior and pre-existing, to not need a variance in order to continue to persist and to satisfy the conditional use, which was the conversation to this point, if I understand correctly. So it came up because the conversation was raised and you're looking at the site plan that had both things. But the continued persistence of this thing is not related, I don't think, to the conditional use requirements. It's just related to being in that location regardless of the use of the house, as it was in prior applications, if that makes sense. I don't know. It came up because I'm trying to parse it as well, but that would be my argument that because it's not like a,
You could go to the ZBA for an interpretation. You could. I mean, that would be maybe the tack to take. mean, maybe
well,
it
at that
doesn't.
point, we'd probably go for the variance, I think,
But
but,
that could be tough to get.
uh,
Could be. Be. But maybe they would interpret it as not being required. And
All
it's
right,
front yard parking.
Well-
It is.
the reason I would think that the variance would be favorably considered by the ZBA is because we have 3 front yards. And
Maybe.
we already have existing front yard parking, as does everybody on the block in either direction, technically.
That's their purview.
No, I understand.
Right.
But that's considered, through lots and corner lots are often given a lot more deference because the
Maybe.
technicality of front yards goes to that. But in this case, I was just pointing out that, again, in the past, it had been looked at and thought not to be a thing which warranted a variance. I understand fresh eyes, different time, you're not beholden to it, but I wanted to put that out there for you so that you can decide whether or not you're sending me for that variance so I can get that ball rolling if we are.
I'm just one, that might maybe get out,
No, Can't say I disagree. We have a problem with advertising though for the next zoning board meeting, don't we? It would be June. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Can I ask staff to weigh in on why it was, like, is it that it's now residence? Is it now that it's 2-family? What caused it to be flagged?
Oh,
Yeah, come up again. Yeah, so it was flagged because essentially it's a new conditional use on the property.
Mhm.
That conditional use has, modern standards. The only reason we didn't say the driveway was because it was pre-existing prior. It's been there for, a long time. It was part of the CU from 1985. Although this was approved for modern approvals, it wasn't for a 2-family residence. So we took a fresh look at it and, looking at the modern standards for the 2-family residence, we'd apply the code.
Yes.
That's technically where it came from. It would be applying that code.
Essentially, it's a change of use now.
Ye-
Yeah, and it's existing, and you've had prior approvals with the parking arrangement the way it is, so you can make an argument. I think that it's already been recognized, it's been reviewed by this board and others, that with the existing parking in there, you understand that part of it. Dan mentioned is, now you're going from Airbnb, bed and breakfast use to the 2-family, so does that,
Which is actually less intense, but I know that the bed and breakfast use is a special use permit, not a change of use.
all right, but less intense means less parking, so why do you need 6 parking spaces?
It's
I mean, there's off-street parking too, right? Isn't there?
technically.
I mean,
both
on-street, I'm
sides-
sorry, on-street
Yeah.
parking,
There-
that's what I meant.
Right, I mean, the code is designed to prevent on-street parking as much as possible, that's why there's
Well, but
parking
if you
requirements
have-
for B and Bs and
yeah.
for 2-family
I mean,
residences.
occasional guests can
Yeah.
park on-street.
So unfortunately, I think I'm still get a variance or put planting.
Right.
Is where I'm.
Same here.
And there's no way to hop on the
Yeah, that makes
calendar for
sense.
this.
It came out in today's paper, and it's a law, it has to be.
Got
It's.
No, that's the piece of germane, yeah, understood.
variance for what?
Oh, well, we were discussing during the public hearing that if they were to put plantings or some sort of method to prevent the parking and take it off the drawing.
Oh, so you could proceed
Well,
with that?
It's
Yeah.
lawn right now, as it is, because it has these
Yeah.
plastic things in it that allow you to park on lawn without destroying the lawn.
Dan asked me.
And so the attempt was to leave it as lawn, and they were saying, but it's still parking, and so,
Right.
but the goal is not to abandon it, it's to,
You can seek the variance.
if we are required to seek a variance, we would choose to seek a variance. This was the decision I came with. I was just providing a counter argument that it had been reviewed and not deemed, because it's a little bit of a gray, like, it's not like we're paved the yard there. If we'd paved the yard there, we would have probably needed to apply for the construction permit at the time, and that would have caused the variance, and that would have done all, it didn't trigger any of those things when this board reviewed it on 3 occasions, was the point I wanted to make, but it seems like that conversation's been had, so.
Well,
So,
I mean,
What is the issue tonight, if the board can move ahead? just.
Want to use the mic?
Is the issue that whether the board can go ahead with the review of the two-family tonight?
Yes.
And then,
And if they put plants to prevent people from parking there, they could later revisit that with the zoning board at a later date and allow us to move forward.
It's not a review. We're ready to close the hearing and vote on a resolution. That's where we are. Well, the hearing's closed.
Yep.
So,
it's all right, yeah, yeah.
so, and we have this, conditional use prohibits parking in the front yard.
Right.
And we have parking in the front yard.
So the question, can the board act with this parking issue still hanging out there? That's the question.
Yeah. Yes, that's a question. Yeah, that's the
So you
question.
were suggesting modifying the drawings to show plantings there, and that will allow the board to consider passage of it while we
Well,
debate revisiting before closing whatever.
my thought
Yes.
is if you
Right.
modify, yes,
Yes, you could
exactly
do
what you
that.
said, modify the drawings and then allow us to
Right.
move forward.
Right, we
And
could do that.
then
And then apply for a variance and
Yes.
change the drawing.
And then
at a-
take the
at a
shrubs
later
out.
time,
Would that
right.
then come
Then
back
it's
to
an
the planning
amendment.
board? I just want, it's an
No.
amendment,
No.
okay.
But
No.
we would still vote
I
on
don't,
the
well, hold
amendment.
it, maybe, I don't know.
I'm sorry, yeah, I don't want to interject.
Yeah.
like,
Fields of
maybe.
horses and carts.
If the board approves the site plan a certain way,
Yes.
and then they do get the variance to allow those to be used,
Yes.
they would have to come back
have to come
again
back.
for a new either modification or amendment to allow those to be a part
Okay.
of the
Would that be an
conditional use.
advertised hearing?
Yes. But I don't
So
think that would
let's-
be,
Let's not make more horses and carts.
Okay.
Let's keep them in the right
Well,
order.
Lee, you need an advertised hearing on that? I mean,
I don't,
For
yeah,
an amendment? Yeah, we don't have to
I
advertise
think
an
it
amendment.
would need that.
yeah,
I don't
not.
think, or does it have to be on the agenda?
It's certainly a simple thing.
Well, and at that point, I would already have the approval that would allow me to move forward on anything else with the building department or the,
Yes.
the rental permit or things like
Right.
that while we get our ducks
Yeah.
sorted out.
That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
All right.
You could do that.
just look for a proceeding.
Right, I mean, given that the conversation seems to be to keep the parking, it needs a variance, then we would like to go for that, but we would also, I appreciate the suggestion to keep it moving. So I've
So-
got 2 weeks before they would consider.
You guys, they left it open for 2 weeks for public.
Public comment, in case we get anything in the mail.
So,
Right.
I tend to think we won't, but
But that
We
means
might-
you would make a decision at a work session in 2 weeks or in a month?
no, we would
No,
have
it'd be
it at our
Okay.
work session at our next meeting.
And we
Okay.
would,
Which would be
And we
before
would
the
put
next
it-
zoning hearing, but you'd be willing to
Right,
vote
and
on
we
it
would have
during
a-
shrubbery.
and we'd have a condition in the resolution that says that there would be, a landscape buffer in that area where the,
Well, I can just show it on the drawing.
Well-
And so that later, well, we can do it verbally, that way.
it
I
would
don't
be,
have to
it would
run
be in the
print and a
resolution.
sample.
Yeah.
That would
Okay.
say it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if you don't require a resubmission,
I
then
don't know.
that's fine.
That I can't say. That I can't
Ray, I
say.
would have to have site plans for you to sign.
Okay.
Oh,
Right, so you'd
so
have to
then
show
you
it.
would
Okay,
have.
so
Yeah.
it would require a resubmission, but then when we loop back around, it wouldn't require a new hearing, new fee, new advertising.
no.
It'll just be an amendment after we have achieved, knock on wood, a variance to keep the thing. Okay.
That's a Jim Burke question.
Yeah, I don't think it will be. I think you can fashion the decision in a way. You can even reference the idea that you can have the plantings and then with the possibility that you might.
At a later
Yeah,
date.
right. If you have that, then
Wearing my
So,
architect's hat, I've
you
done,
get it, you come back, then you're very,
I've done similar things in the past where you take the thing for which you would need a variance for, show it removed from the plan, understanding that you're going to come back and do a revision after the fact so that folks can get moving on the permit elsewhere.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
That works.
Thank you.
okay,
Great.
all right.
Should write that down.
Okay, we'll move on to 1506 to 1512 Main Street.
Chatted about this, it's the same thing, coming now.
Running out of
Same
mics.
thing. And last month, same crap.
This is
I
it.
asked the staff about it, remember? I asked them,
No, this is it.
and they didn't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no way.
Oh, okay.
There's no way.
I'm sorry.
There's no way I remember.
So we're not doing.
Oh,
that,
all right,
but
it's
we're
on our
doing
agenda.
across the
Yeah.
street.
All right, How are you?
All right, well, that's that one out.
We never got comments back.
From us? I apologize.
Hello there. How are you? Good. All right.
Oh, wow.
Well,
How are you, Mr. Chairman? He got, he's all dressed up, everybody. Look how handsome he looks.
Fire engagement.
Yeah. What do you mean, Charlie?
Okay, great. Well,
if you
Yeah,
get an extra one,
sure,
I'll take one of
certainly.
those.
thank you for meeting with us on this pre-submission. It's very helpful to discuss it in this format ahead of time. We did receive a comprehensive comments about 3:30 this afternoon, so we were not able to
Uh-huh.
meet with everybody and discuss the particulars.
Yeah.
So we're not able to completely respond to topics that were raised, but
And just so you know, none of us got any drawings until now. So all we got was at 3:30 staff report.
Okay.
So you have to take with a grain of salt. We
Okay,
didn't have time to,
Right. You saw
Look at
little-
anything.
you saw bits
It's like
and
us with the
pieces of
report.
this.
right, so I just want you to know, like,
All right.
the staff report does not have any of our comments.
We haven't read it yet.
Okay.
Well, these are the revised plans.
So, this project, we're on Main Street, North Country Road, and we're starting on the north side of where Tara's parking lot is and down towards North Country Road. It's L-shaped. The main parcel is L-shaped, which is about 3/4 of an acre. There's a dental office now on the corner of Walnut and North Country that will remain. Also on the east side of Walnut, is the existing church and a outbuilding for the church or a residential property, which would become parking. The project is about an acre and a half altogether. We're taking down approximately 8 buildings that are there now. We're proposing 74 apartments, over 88,000 square feet. We're required for 86 parking spaces. We're required 84 parking spaces. We're providing 86. There are 16 spaces in an interior garage. That's part of the main building. And there are 70 spaces that would exist on the church property across the street. The project meets the FAR. It's a 1.6. We're allowed the 2.5. Project meets all the setbacks. We're proposing a 4th floor with the setback. Sorry about that. Okay, and we're proposing a 4th floor with an additional 12-foot setback as per the code. One of the challenges with this one, as with the other one, is there's about a 12-foot difference in the height from North Country Road up to the edge of the property. So we are essentially the entrance for the apartments that I have to provide handicap access for along Main Street ends up in the spot that's same elevation approximately as Walnut Street. So you coming in from either Walnut Street or the entrance to the apartments along Main Street. We have 1,800 square feet of office or retail on the corner of Main Street and North Country. The remainder makes up our game room, fitness room, and lounge, as well as interior covered parking in that area. We have some units on the first floor that are along the back on Walnut Street. It doesn't front directly on Main Street, but it does run along the side alley between Tara's and the building and in the back on Walnut Street. Primarily the building is in the sewer district. Part of it in the back is outside of the sewer district, which we could apply for and get additional flow for, pay for the additional flow.
Do you have the same condition at More North Country?
We
Part was in
designed the
and part was
building
out?
on that one
Or you
to
squeezed it all?
be within, yeah.
Yeah.
So we avoided that, but in talking with the,
The dentist sees the bread.
talking with the DPW, it wouldn't be an issue as long as the village was positive in allowing us to put that part of it into the sewer district. which the capacity exists for the project. And so otherwise, it does meet all the zoning requirements as far as parking, and the course to discuss would be the benefit for the floor. That's been ongoing discussion. And we appreciate being able to discuss in this without, the next step would be the elevations and presenting the building based on the feedback that we're receiving now and in this report, et cetera. So anything else I can continue rambling on?
The parking on site that gets people to park to go out to the retail side.
Yeah, so we have 16 interior spaces in a garage, and that allows you a ramp access to provide handicap access to the office retail space, and also direct handicap access into the building, correct, yes. And we believe it's not, it's a mixed-use building, which is a different definition than the multifamily, I believe, where it talks about multiple dwellings. So it's a different type of building. It's a mixed-use building, which we've established in our other projects. So I believe some of those conditions don't apply as to the first floor level units. And, it's more of a topic discussion. Well, so there's a provision about multiple dwellings and not fronting on Main Street or North Country Road. And if you do have first floor units, you needed certain conditions to be met. But in this case, it's a mixed use building. We're not feeling that applies. And that's our approach to it. And same thing kind of goes into the topic of the retail or office space that we have mixed use. We're using it for our, the game room and the lobby and the parking, and that's consistent with the other buildings we've been building. And the code is silent on, direct numbers on that. And it's our
Yeah, I
our
kind of
use.
disagree with you.
Yeah, so I did listen in on that portion
yes,
of it,
I
and
delved
it is,
into the comp plan very, very quickly. And they discussed creating for the C2 district exactly what you're saying, a mixed-use building. However, within that comp plan, it was very, very clear that the frontage on Main Street, the first floor on Main Street, is retail. And again, then they developed the code for the C2 district. And that's when I read, your accessory use on Main Street can only be 30% of the retail space.
yeah, so I would say I see that a little differently, because that clearly, when it says, it says permitted uses, it says banks, retail, and then it discusses
And
the.
accessory services,
Yeah, but
provided that space.
accessory services to the retail, that particular retail use.
No, the
It's
accessory
very silent
services.
on
So
the number 13 in the code is
Okay,
a
so
mixed-use building.
go back and read the comp plan.
Yeah, now I have.
because
it,
the comp
well, the
plan is
comp plan
what-
isn't the zoning.
I agree, but it is what drove
So,
the zone,
I
the
don't- and I
code
think
specifically for the C2 district.
We understand that, but there's a
So,
practicality to what we're doing.
and I,
Part of it is if you look at retail and you look at these as an investor and someone that has been involved in these type of buildings really throughout
Oh.
the country.
he's asking you.
Throughout the country, just in the village of Port Jefferson, if you look at Conifer's piece on the corner, and they've created the retail, I mean, it was a matter of years before they saw the first tenant in
Well,
there.
can we discuss that? Because
We
they
can
didn't
discuss that.
provide parking. So
Well-
they created a building that
I
didn't have
understand.
enough parking.
Loading,
if
there
I
was
was
no
a
loading,
retail
there was
space-
no loading, there's no
No
parking.
loading, no-
But if you go to, Conifer's other project that has lots of parking down in Quorum, Windquorum, it's still vacant, and this is
Well,
17
then
years later.
I think you should take it up with the Board of Trustees to amend, because the way that I am reading the code is that, and the way I read the comp plan, which drove the code, is that it was absolutely 100% the intent of the code to be retail on the first floor and allow 30% of accessory use
Well,
on that, to
I-
allow you to have an entrance et
I think
cetera.
you're gonna accomplish the aesthetics that you're looking for on Main Street to create a vibrant and walkable Main Street.
Listen,
you're
you
gonna
guys
create
want to
that.
make your space, your workout space and all those spaces public. I might agree with you, but you are literally creating. We're trying to create a walkable district, which was again the intent
Correct.
of the comp plan. So why do the comp plan if we're just going to toss it out? If you guys want to get a change of the zone, if you want to change our zoning, that's something
I
you
think
can
that's
take up with the
something
board of
that
trustees.
your staff needs to take up internally with maybe
Well,
the
I'm
rest
just
of the
saying,
board.
like, you keep coming to me saying it's not possible, we can't do retail, retail is dead. However, we do have a code, we did have a comp plan that was researched exhaustively. It took years to make. The intent was to have retail on the first floor.
I'd just like to say something. I know a little bit about commercial real estate business, and I agree with you. Retail's challenging, but you know, we're looking at we've looked at 3 applications tonight, or within the last month on Main Street. The one in front of Rail Realty with Main Street frontage, the building that we just had a work session on further south, and then this application tonight. And it struck me when I was looking at the 2 applications that we're discussing tonight, that, I mean, those are significant projects that encompass quite a bit of Main Street. And all 3 of them basically, minimize retail to, a great extent. So what we're doing is kind of putting retail out of business up there. And,
we have 40% vacancy right now. So
well,
Charlie and myself
but
and
it- but-
ourselves,
but it looks terrible. It looks terrible. I mean, it's terrible.
It's not gonna get any better. You're adding more retail. So our primary business is retail, right? Our portfolios are primary retail. Don't you think that's where we make our money? That's what we want? We kind of know what we're talking about.
I feel like this is a hill I'm gonna die on.
And-
So
and-
unless,
and this is-
unless I'm outvoted,
The comp plan's a concept. I was part of the comp plan.
it's
You
a
gotta talk
concept
to-
until you create the code. And what
and
I'm
the
trying
code
to
book
say
doesn't
is,
match the concept.
I am interpreting the
And I
okay.
think that
So
there's a
I'm
disconnect.
interpreting the code based on the concept that created it.
Yeah, I think
So,
Back in
and it's a
what-
hill I'm gonna die on. So
I don't know.
unless I am outvoted, which I completely
You're
understand.
right. That was the intent of the comp plan.
Mr. Chairman,
Vision, it's legal.
might
Well-
I make a recommendation that we ask council to provide us an interpretation of the
But
code?
that's what the board is for. We are a planning board. We interpret the code. It's not the code is set in stone. Then why are we even here? Why is the planning board here?
I think
if-
what you're looking for, and not to agree or disagree, but clearly the way the code is written, it's not addressing what you're thinking it does, because it says banks, comma, retail stores and
They're
accessory
missing a
services.
comma, so you're
No,
like
no,
discussing
no,
grammar.
I'm not saying comma. Though it's referring to that 30% you're talking about has to do with the retail store, not the other uses going on the building.
Absolutely
I'm just-
not.
I don't interpret it that way.
Well,
Absolutely
I
not.
mean, we have another building built that way, and we have other
Well,
buildings the
only
same
because we
C1
made-
zoning.
We made that C1 also.
But that's the same exact wording. It's
Okay.
the same word.
However, with that building, and I was very specific when we approved that building, that was not going to set a precedence. We discussed that with that section in that area of town that was already had a fairly dead zone. We made an exception, which is our purview. We can interpret it. We can choose, hey, maybe this doesn't apply to this lot. However, the comp plan was so specific in addressing retail on the first floor on Main Street. That was the intent. It's several places in the comp plan, which is what was used to create the code.
Well, all
So
the
I'm
permitted
interpreting the
uses.
code based on the intention of the comp plan.
Comp plan was put together about 15 years ago, and retail, and that was clear cut, retail on
agree.
first floor, right?
Yes,
The market has changed.
It has
So,
fine,
It has, but it has
So
changed. But
there
I think,
needs to
this
be-
is with all these applications coming in at once, all doing the same thing. I think we need to step back a little bit and consider what's happening here. Maybe it is the right thing to do what you guys are
It's
proposing.
time for a code revision.
That's
Maybe,
what
I
I
don't
was
know, but,
suggesting.
you know,
I
We
mean,
would be better off
maybe
with
it's-
retail because we'd be collecting revenue.
We get
Not
nothing
even a
out of it.
question.
I
Versus
hear
having a
you.
gym that brings us no
I
revenue.
know, but, you know, it's,
Right.
But it's a
it is-
challenge to rent.
There's a lot of boxes to check. You want to check the first one is the aesthetics of it and making sure it looks right. I mean, that's first and
important.
foremost.
Yeah.
Then there's after COVID and even before COVID, I mean, retail has languished. And I'm an investor in lots of these walkable smart growths communities. And I'll tell you, the residential does well, the office does well. But when you come down to the straight retail, it's tough. And
could
again,
do
going back to
restaurant,
Conifer,
Yeah,
you
food
could
and
do
does
someone
conditional use.
someone approved that, and the boulevard there without the loading, without the proper parking. They would Conifer at one point wanted to give me that.
I
for
don't even
$1.
want to discuss Conifer
Okay,
because we
so-
had a different attorney, we had a different
Let's
head
not
of
make-
department, and
So let's go back and look at a code
let's-
revision.
we cannot even use them as a,
Update,
I- I think
update the
it-
comprehensive plan.
I think it needs to be
Comprehensive
talked about.
plans are to set, listen, I sat on the town board in the town of Brookhaven. We had the comprehensive plans. We had growth plans. And
Right.
you know what? Every 3 to 5 years, we had strategic plans.
Yeah,
You
you're
gotta
right.
go back and tweak them.
You
I
do.
think this gentleman said it best. I mean, it has changed in the last 15 years.
I
So
agree.
if you're holding the reins tight to, this is the
No.
comprehensive plan 15 years
Yeah.
ago, if you like the way that Main Street looks now,
Right.
we will have the same conversation in 15
yes,
years.
That-
Charlie, I agree with you. Things
So
change,
let's-
but
Let's put some smart heads together and think
Right.
about how you can make this work best.
Yeah.
You have to look
Yeah.
at all three of them, these comprehensive, you're gonna be looking at the secret review of all three of these projects right now.
Correct.
So we're gonna be having these discussions, and this is gonna get fleshed out, and review of three very significant projects, which we all wanna see, right? Uptown is horrible, so we wanna see this, we break that. they
but
have
the whole
buildings
point of
that are
having
good.
500 units uptown is to create the walkable district that will support the retail that's up there. You
And-
can you can have a conditional use.
One retail space with Conifer doesn't make, retail. And I'm discounting all the other stuff that's up there.
Listen,
We're
when,
not
But,
making a
but look,
decision tonight.
no, we're not making a
No,
decision.
but
listen.
I'm letting you
when
know
I was
my
growing up,
position.
when I was a young
Let's-
kid, and the deli was up at Fort Jeff, I worked at Solomon Grundy's. I mean, that area between North Country and the tracks,
Yeah.
that was vibrant. But the world has changed. That was almost 50 years ago. But
Yeah.
today, I think if you just take an 800-foot view of this thing and look at maybe some sort of update. I mean, I didn't hear I know a little bit about Tony's other project, but the last project, I mean, this project provides parking. We meet or exceed the parking requirement. And parking in this village, from the day that it was incorporated, it had always been an issue. So, I think as we look at it, and I looked at these staff comments on the way driving over here, there's a few things that I think there has to be some clarification. There's things that, we're gonna have to provide, but I think that we need all to work together to find that happy medium of where the walkable community works, the right amount of retail works, it's economically feasible to build it. Because even if you look at some of the other communities, Wyandanch, Amityville, Patchogue, they were shoehorned into doing this retail. Talk to the mayor of Patchogue, talk to the mayor of Amityville. At the end of the day, maybe some of those shouldn't have been created, that expansive amount of retail. So just ask other municipalities, other villages. It's mostly in the villages.
Are they having vacancies?
They're
Patchogue,
vacant.
Joe?
Patchogue has some vacancies. And, if you look at Amityville, look at Wyandanch Rising. All right,
Let's
but,
talk about restaurants. You brought up restaurants. I'm gonna give you an example. Brookport, I put in a coffee shop. It cost me $70,000 to put in a grease trap. It cost me another $150,000 to put in the necessary HVAC for cooking. I will never make that money back. I don't care what you charge in rent. You're a broker. You know what I'm talking about. Okay? I'm losing money there. I'm getting $42 a foot rent and I'm losing money there.
But if it's
We
that
have a
or
meeting-
not have the, like the intent of having a walkable
Yeah, but you,
space.
yeah, you created an atmosphere there, Tony, too. You know, you really have. I mean,
It's a wonderful
What
space.
pri- At what,
Why is it doesn't
at
make
what price,
money?
though?
At what price?
So,
You
just-
build a
You
an
got the
apartment
But I'll tell you,
building.
what this gentleman is doing is, he's talking to the Suffolk County Health Department. He's talking to the sewer agency. For the first time in years, we have the sewer agency and the health department talking to each other.
We have a meeting
Ha-
in Health Monday.
Monday, how can we create interior grease traps
Like Nassau County.
like Nassau County? You know, the sewer
We're doing that
agency,
Monday.
Monday, we're having a Zoom call between these two agencies. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's going to happen, we have to do these type of amendments to codes.
Yes.
So if the county is doing that,
It's fine.
you know, the village should just take a step back and take a look.
100%. Agreed.
You know?
All right, back to the retail. So yes, we were envisioning first floor as all retail, right? Markets change, things have changed. However, maybe things are a little better because now you've got more apartments, you got people living there that don't have to get in a car to go get something, they go right downstairs. So maybe the thing shifts back a little bit.
I don't know.
Only time will tell.
We're not going to
Well, it
decide
should.
this tonight.
Yeah,
Other
have
than
that many
these
people
buildings
living there.
create demand for all the vacancies that are there now that haven't changed in year. I haven't seen anybody go in there. So by
Well, we're
building
talking
these
about
projects now-
dilapidated, awful
True.
space.
Yeah.
Which, so your example downtown with the coffee shop, that's a very busy,
Very,
very
you did
lovely.
very well.
I'm sure it adds to the value of being a renter in your apartment.
Yeah.
Yes
So,
and no. I mean,
Well, it's a problem too, because it adds more traffic, it adds rodents, it adds
Yeah.
smells.
Well-
There are issues.
people are
I
parking in
just-
front of his
When you live
dumpster and he
above a
has
restaurant,
signs
you
up
know.
now.
Yeah.
It's,
There's a negative.
I
aspect.
will try and
Yeah.
take your thought with a grain of salt. I just, there needs to be a little bit more of a happy medium.
There is. This
Somewhere.
is not hard fast. This is trying to figure this out collectively. What works best and
Yep.
what can be built that's successful.
We
That's
just want to,
Come out in the.
have a
as we
great
go along
community,
in the
right?
review.
right. Listen, I understand what needs to be done, and we have to figure it out again together how to get there.
Exactly.
And it's going to take leadership. It's going to take leadership of whoever's running this village. It's going to take leadership in, everyone here.
I think all of us are in the same position where we want to see a vibrant uptown.
Totally.
And we would like to see retail uptown. And for us, it's beneficial to us in terms of a revenue stream, okay? But we're also being challenged by it. So as Charlie said, there's a happy medium here that we have to come to some agreement.
Yep.
All right.
Right. So at 17 or 18 years old, when I worked at Solomon Grundy's, I would never figure, I would never figure 1509.
It's right next to ABI Auto. right?
Yeah, I would never figure, almost 50 years later, I'd be the owner of the building. It's just a bizarre thought. But, when we leave here, none of us are here in 50 or 100 years, I want our children, grandchildren to look back and said, wow, whatever group came up with whatever they did uptown, on the other side of the tracks, downtown, that leave some kind of legacy here that works.
Yep.
So, I don't think we're going to solve this, obviously, not tonight, not
Right.
next week, but I think that if we go back and, we can advance our plan, we have lots of money invested in this and time, years, literally years. I think the church and what we plan on the church lot, it provides, that bonus and that major community
Well, it
benefit.
gets back to a benefit, and Laura, your point was very well taken. I've been asking for 5 years, what's the cost of a benefit? And not
it
anyone
needs
has
to
been
be
able to give me that
quantitative.
answer.
However, I wouldn't say providing your own parking is a,
No, it'd be shared parking with the.
Share,
No,
no,
we're talking
this
about-
should be shared.
but I
Everything
thought you
parking
needed
to the
all
building.
the
No.
parking. You
No.
don't need all those stalls.
No, way.
Oh,
You're
okay.
so close to the
Well,
train
from
station.
the zoning calculation, yes, but
Yes.
from the reality calculation.
Well, and if they make it open to the public.
It's open to the
And
public.
it's used at different times of the day, kind of.
It would be almost like the parking lot that I developed 23 years ago
For
downtown.
CVS, yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Right, it works.
It's,
yeah.
it's never full.
And that was for the tenants of
That was the
your,
CVS building and the tenants.
And the
okay.
tenants, and it
but
works.
they have a dedicated space.
Not really, no.
To meet the code.
No,
Not in the back of the building.
no,
but-
they don't. They have parking in back of the building. They have parking across the street at the entrance to the high school.
Okay.
And then that parking
And
is
that
actually-
isn't enough for,
That's not
I
enough.
wasn't on the
No,
board.
Anyone's,
retail on
anyone's
your property.
allowed to use that up to
Yeah.
4 hours. And actually, you could thank Mr. Freeling for that because he sat on the planning board and said that's what he wanted to see.
Yes.
Okay? And people take pictures of it because 2 weeks
I'd
ago, it's
love-
all white flowers on the
So-
trees.
Great.
What would be very useful
Yeah.
in my
it is.
perspective would be we were required to provide this many spots,
Yes.
right? What percentage of those spots are actually being used in
Correct.
amongst your properties? So that again, it's not just fluff. How many spaces are not being used? It's more of a percentage.
Right.
It's more something that we could quantify.
Mhm.
That would be great.
We could do that.
Does the village have a land bank parking?
Yes.
You can land bank?
Yes,
Okay.
because I have land bank parking spaces in my office building.
Yeah.
We do. I have 7 land
But then
bank
that might not be
No,
a,
I'm
an
just-
amenity.
I'm,
That I
no,
do
Yeah.
have.
you
So I
do
have.
have it, okay.
The historical society has land bank.
But that would be our benefit, since we don't know what the benefit costs.
But I'd love some sort of quantitative.
Sure, I agree with you.
Yeah, and I agree. There needs to be some sort of definition
I
for
agree
what
about that also.
an amenity
There should
means.
be a definition as to quantify what is this benefit.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Yeah,
'Cause
as
it's
Dan
wi-
said,
it's
though,
loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
You had examples.
Yeah.
And then sometimes from application to application, it kind of differs, right? It always has
I
to be like
hear
rationally
you.
related to the project.
You know,
But it
That's
needs
the
a
test.
little bit more of a
as
definition.
what was
maybe.
said earlier
Hard to say.
by the other gentleman with his application, to develop that 4th floor is much more costly. It requires a different form of construction based on New York State code.
Mhm.
So although we're looking for the yield, it's much more costly to us also.
2 elevators,
You know,
2
you're,
means of
you're
egress.
talking to someone with a
Concrete
structural
podium.
engineering
Right.
background.
Yeah,
I see it
She
is.
understands.
I understand. Yes, but and I
2 elevators.
would prefer the amenity than I would prefer not building lot line to lot line and having that amenity that was in the last application that we discussed. But I don't want to shortchange. I want it to be more of an even playing field for everyone. Like if someone's going to spend
agree.
80,000 or 800,000 or whatever amount, that it's similar to what
There has to
other
be a
people are
balance.
required.
Per unit number.
Yeah, or
There has to
total
be a balance.
construction.
It should be a
cost number.
guideline.
I agree.
And if
That's
you
the
want to
right way to do
provide
it.
more to beautify your building,
think
that's
that's what
wonderful,
Brookhaven
that's
does.
great,
That's right.
but
They have a
it would
number.
be a
I
number.
agree with you 100%.
Per unit, you're
Yeah.
done, right? It's just like
We've been asking for
parking,
that
parkland.
definition for 5 years,
On
and no one's
40.
been able to give it to us.
And we're paying.
Question, how do these apartment sizes compare to Baxter and One North?
Different than Baxter.
These are bigger,
But-
yeah.
Very comparable
To Baxter?
to Report, very comparable to
It
One
is
North Country.
Good size.
Baxter, you
If
weren't
I'm
at the
fine.
last meeting. We're trying to
Baxter, I
develop
think, is the
something a little
one- the
smaller
new-
that's
newer
more
one that they just
economical
came
for
out
our
with.
grad students.
I did see them.
Online.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is back to the
This is,
standard.
at
Yeah.
this
What you-
point in
normal,
time, at this point in time, we have everything laid out as One North Country and as Brookport.
Okay.
One of the things we need to take under consideration is, I know the report that came out today, and I just, briefly looked at it, it was talking about studios and 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. We need to analyze that further because studios are really not a good point in sale here. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
But maybe, because one of the things we talked about was workforce. If we get IDA funding, that's imperative. We have to do 10% workforce and 10% affordables. That's 20%, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. But in addition to that is maybe because there are 75 units, maybe we do want to take some of these units and make it somewhat like the Baxter, so that there can be some students that can go into this building. We haven't done that research yet, and that's why we haven't developed elevations. We want like comments and input from this board as to what you like, what you don't like, so we can go further with the project. That's the whole purpose of why we're here this evening. That make some sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is an important corner. I mean, if you look at, what Tony did across the street, you look at this corner, I drive up and down that corner every day, and you can envision from Terrace, with Terrace staying in place, because everyone was concerned about that, coming north, yeah, the church, and it's a piece of the puzzle, that gets the village a little further along in accomplishing its original goals uptown.
No question.
Remember, parking is a real issue here. Before you were talking to an applicant about zero parking. So you know, the two things I have to tell you.
Right.
I did an analysis about renting apartments and parking. If you do not have a parking space for a tenant, you're not renting your space. We manage 117 units that are only 3 years old in Amityville, and there is only 138 parking spaces, and people are parking under the railroad tracks getting tickets every day. So I'm telling you, I did an analysis many, many years ago when I built Barnum for Jean Garant, proving to her that it's imperative that you have at least one parking space for an apartment. If it's 1 or 2 bedroom, I don't care. You have to have at least one parking space. Sure, if you're short a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5, fine. But beyond that, you're only kidding yourself. You're not going to rent your apartments. You don't have a problem. We have a real problem in Amityville. Am I correct in saying that, Rob? People, it's unbelievable. There's just not enough parking. So parking is a #1 issue with these apartments. You must have.
For their first phase, they had to put in valet parking, no parking. Same thing in London.
I'm telling you, as a board, you can't approve anybody without parking. You just can't.
At a 1-to-1.
At a 1-to-1, they're never going to rent the apartments. Not in a million years. Okay? That being said, and just so, because I know the question's going to come up, what happened to the dentist? Okay, Lou Beauvais is a partner in this deal and probably had 6 or 7 meetings to try and purchase it. He was unsuccessful. I was successful for a week. The guy agreed with me to a number and then changed his mind again. We don't need him. We're buying the church. Okay? He's not in the sewer district,
It's pre-existing non-conforming.
not conforming. We don't care.
The
He will
dentist
be a
is- yeah.
sorry person for that, and that's his problem. Okay?
Yeah, I mean,
What do we care?
yeah. I met with him once, you know.
I made a deal with him.
Never
It
know.
was a done deal. And then I changed my mind.
And when it does come up.
He'll be
it should
sorry.
approach us first,
Yeah, the
And
church,
then we'll be coming to public meetings in support of all of
Those
this.
guys
yeah, the
Not
church
gonna-
approached us, yeah. the church.
That's the
We
other
didn't
thing.
go
The
to them.
church approached us.
Yes, they came to us. And they come
Okay,
play
and
with
we,
us and
because this
everything.
was supposed to be a 40-unit project.
Not joking.
Until they approached us. And we just said, this makes a lot of sense for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because we will make that parking lot look as good as the parking lot that everyone appreciates downtown. I think everyone here is happy with that lot. Okay, we would make it look that good.
And then with all this
With the
future
trees, too.
development
With the
and,
trees.
you know, the hospital, what they're doing, the emergency room, you know, this overflow parking lot may really come into play.
The overflow parking lot is where we see a benefit to the village. We don't need all those parking spaces.
That's a
Even
multi-million
though
dollar
it meets
investment.
code.
Well, you would know because you have
Well, that's, I
That's
want
it.
to.
We know.
Rail Realty,
Right.
right?
Right.
And now you got One North Country not fully rented yet, but getting
So
there.
just to bring you up to speed, as of today, out of 35 units, there are 26 rented, and there are 4 more affordables to complete. And just so you know, because they know, 30 days ago, we only had 6 rented.
Yeah,
It's now our
I heard that,
season.
yeah.
From now till August, we'll be fully rented.
Okay.
Okay, there's no problem in renting. And back to your question about apartments, I did a calculation before. Just so you know, Conifer's project that's complete, Conifer's new project, our 74 units at Rail, our 35 units at One North. The gentleman's 38 units I included, and our 74 units gets us to 356. Total. So
For
we're way
anything
under.
new.
Excuse me?
For anything
No,
new.
existing and new.
Oh, existing.
Exactly
Yeah.
what we have
Excluding
already.
the
and-
older
Plus new.
That's
product.
what
Yeah,
I.
yeah, everything
Right.
that's.
It's not a lot
When,
older
when,
product.
when the 3 of us are done, so to speak, plus what's already up, you're 356. You're more than fine.
That's best
And-
case.
And as I shared with you the last time, we have absolutely no problem in renting. And you weren't here, Ray, but on the workforce and affordable, we hired Long Island Housing. There was 183 applications for 7 apartments.
Yeah, same thing Conifer had.
They had more, yeah.
Ridiculous.
They use a
Was-
bigger spread.
Was it like 1,400 or something?
1,400 they had.
It's still hard to find
It's hard to. spell.
qualified
Yeah.
people.
At 80%
Well, I'll tell you how
AMI.
bad
Yeah.
it is. I met with our director of leasing this morning, and she's telling me a story that just blew my mind. A woman, 91 years old in a wheelchair, lives in Manhattan. Her 2 daughters are physicians. They're taking her to One North Country because it's affordable. She will only have to pay, it's $2,500 less the utilities. It comes out to $23.23. They have a full-time aide for her, and they're taking an apartment. Makes no sense to me. You two are living in Manhattan, and you're shoving your mother out to the boondocks with an aide.
It might,
You're sending it out there.
Right? But it is what it is. Yeah. Hope my kids don't do that to me.
I know.
You know?
Maybe we'll build a penthouse at the fourth floor. Right?
You know, so that's what's going on. It's crazy. And just so, Ray, you weren't at the last meeting.
You keep telling me that.
Well, in talking to Long Island Housing,
Yeah.
every village is number for affordable and workforce varies. The village of Port Jefferson is $2,500 for one bedroom,
That's at 80%.
and that's at 80%.
That's 80%.
Right, it goes up as you go.
Okay.
And I read open market, one bedrooms at 24, 25, and 26 in Miller Place, Port Jeff Station, Port Jeff. And we get an apartment within 24 to 48 hours, it's rented. So
Apartments. See, I just had a comment
Yep.
today. You
and
know,
that's
can't-
affordable.
Yeah, we can't. You can't take someone who's paying you $2,500 and say to them, the market changed, so next year the lease is up, you're paying us $3,000. You can't do that because their salary isn't going up like that. So we welcome them leaving because we're under market. Because we were the first ones up there, and we went in very low because we were the first ones up there. Now I like to see everybody leave. Seriously, because we're way below market on our rents, but we raised them 5%, and that's like a max. And even that, state requires that if you go over 5%, you now have to give them a 6 months notice of what you're planning to do.
Right, in writing.
In writing. Yeah,
Yeah, we do 5% or $100.
yeah.
The greater road.
Yeah, you really can't do much. It's not fair. You just can't do it.
I would think more apartments for graduate students might be a good thing here because you would think there's probably a lot of them don't have housing, right?
Well,
And-
Stony Brook University's still short, they're 10,000 beds short.
Yes.
we
Undergrad
have
ain't
in rail, you know,
Big number.
we were very fortunate that at the time we completed the first building, there were many resident doctors that had to occupy space to go to their residency at the university. We had people come from China, from South Korea, from Seattle, Washington, from Ohio, from Texas. I would say we have approximately 60 to 68 resident doctors out of 74 units at Rail.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And the beauty of that, when their residency is up, and it varies depending upon what their major is.
Yeah.
The person coming in says, "Where do you live?" And they call us. And we just roll them over.
Yeah.
And if you look at the space, if I took you to Rail today, say, "Does anybody live here?" Everything is impeccable, like brand new, because they work so much. It's the truth. They're never there. Everything's
just
impeccable.
come
It's
over.
great. They work
Sleep.
so hard.
Right?
They're never there. It's wonderful.
Sleeping at the hospital.
It's
That's
wonderful.
interesting.
So there's a desperate need for the apartments. There really is. It's really something that's advantageous for us as well as for the village. You know, bringing more people into the village, as we said, we're talking about the retail. The retail is struggling. But the more people we bring into the village, hopefully it helps the village. You know, we had to renew our lease with CVS. And Rob and I had to sit down several years ago and show them why they should stay. And we showed them all these apartments that were looking to be built in the village, as well as we knew that Rite Aid was closing in Port Jeff Station. And it was based on that they signed a new 10-year lease with us 2 years ago.
And
I
from
don't know if that's gonna happen again, but that's a separate issue.
Well, we don't know what's going to happen to
From a
Walgreens and
from a
CVS of the world in the future. Who
municipality
knows?
standpoint,
Yeah.
you know, one of the smartest, smart growth planners in this country, Andre Swani, always says that when you look at density, it creates dollars. You know, spending dollars, walking dollars, dollars that flow down for government, private sector, and it's just good economic, you know, success. And, you know, thinking about, you know, that area, and if it's up to 500 units, you know, creating that type of density, you know, certainly in the next, you know, and this maybe take 10 years to build it out fully, but it's going to be a showcase. And, you know, Patchogue had some growing pains. This is certainly not Patchogue, but the uptown will be, you know, if done right, one of the great places in Suffolk County to live and work.
Hanover Bank,
We gotta make sure we don't, limit ourselves on potential future retail.
Yeah.
So there
Well, how
has to be this balance, so we
Right.
gotta figure it out.
I got an idea. Well, when we write the code, but putting an FAR bonus or a bonus into the retail. So there's a want and a need. The retail, so maybe there's a bonus on the other
Or
side.
reducing the
FAR is
medical
already big,
parking
already
is
larger uptown.
the 1 per
What's that?
100
I know, but
C2 compared to C1.
But I'm just saying, if you really need retail built, you think on the other side, maybe there's some kind of FAR bonus or a density bonus. There's a lot that can be done in a code revision. I'm sure Andy's really looking for a code revision, right? Sharpen that pencil.
well, overall, what do you think of the concept?
Great concept if we
Yes.
get a little bit more,
It's in
I
the
mean,
details. It's in the, right,
yeah.
we know.
concept, I'm happy there's parking.
Yeah.
But, it's
That's
great.
very important.
And
Yeah.
then, I mean, Lee would know, then you have to, we get approved. You have to see where the debt structure is. You have to see where the banks, where the construction loans are, where the rental market is. And you have to find that apex of, are you going to see a return on your dollars?
Hmm.
That's all on us. No one in government's really, maybe the federal government, Uncle Sam, if we lose money, is our partner on the losses, but, there's a lot of risk.
And the
involved.
availability of IDA funding, because that could change.
Can go away tomorrow.
State funding, like state dormitories, if you're saying, Rob, like, they're 10,000 rooms short at the campus, would they consider putting some money into this area? Do you think at all?
No.
Anybody thought
No,
about that?
we've
I'm meeting
asked
with the
them.
university
talked to them
next
about
week.
that.
They have an on-site, they're looking to increase their footprint and upgrade their sewage treatment
Well,
plant.
with Flowerfield too.
They have a plan. Now, it's not gonna solve all their problems, but they're gonna build a
They're
couple
building
hundred.
modular housing right
Oh,
now.
They have no
Flower
choice.
Field,
They
they're
had
gonna build
500
domes over there,
beds.
yeah.
They have no choice.
They paid enough money for it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right,
they're going to have to do something.
and they're gonna do something near the
See,
soccer
their problem,
fields.
like Troy said, their plant, just like all the other sewage treatment plants, they're at capacity. So
But the other thing about that is having the university is really a plus because many of those students remain in the area after they leave the university. They like it here and they look for jobs here.
It's a tremendous plus.
Right.
It's the biggest driver here.
Yeah.
by far.
It's right, it's our, right.
yeah,
The hospitals.
And many of them work at the hospitals.
Of the university.
University is it. And now you have, third generation of, my grandparents went there, they stayed here. My parents went there, and now, the children are going there. And, it has substantially changed since, the first Benedict building was built in the early 60s there. I mean, it is the #1 SUNY college. And, you look at every ranking, it's top 50 in, in everything it does. So we're so fortunate.
Yeah.
That's the,
Yeah.
that's exactly.
Yeah.
Fortunate, yeah.
Fortunate.
Right? I mean, without the university and without University Hospital and the Cancer Center, I'm so sure this area would be so much different than it was in the 50s and the 60s.
I don't know, we'd be building these apartments.
Oh, you would be building Florence.
The driver. It is.
Yeah.
You know, you have three things driving you here. You have hospitals, you have the university, and you have Renaissance Technology. Believe it or not, we do get tenants from Renaissance Technology.
Right.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
Thank you.
We-
And Brookhaven Land.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yeah.
we get a motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to close
How
the
you doing,
meeting.
all right? Family good? Brother's good, sister's good?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Barbara votes yes.
not as much as you want, but a little bit more.
Well, let's come to a, I mean,
We'll find a happy medium.
let's see what we do.
No worries. Okay.
I know,
Good seeing
it's
you.
like,
Stay well.
Same to you.
But it's hard, so like Hanover Bank we're putting in, we had to give them a sweetheart deal and build out the whole space. That's it financially doesn't make any sense. I understand where you guys are coming from, but
It's been kind of the plan to try to do that, and maybe it's.
So let's talk about Hanover. Hanover, 1,800 square feet, it's costing $400,000. My net worth is
Comprehensive plans are made to be changed. Comprehensive plans are made to be changed. Yeah, I know. Lee and I were on the board when we were talking.
Well,
I remember that. How long ago was that? Yeah, yeah. I remember thinking at the time, we're gonna
I know.
spend
I-
$400,000.
Yeah, we don't know how
on
that got through.
Stick it on a shelf somewhere. Yeah, sure.
I got it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll work on it. We'll figure it out.